And good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to this week's episode of Primetime Gaming. I'm your host, Mr. Boomstick XL, and as you can hear me, man, I am still reeling from the flu. I sound like Froggy from the Little Rascals, and I'm sure that it's going to go over a lot of people's head who are going to say, who the hell are the Little Rascals? But you know what? I'm here. Mrs. Boomstick, just so you know, is, of course, has the flu as well. And actually, she's worse than I am currently. But don't worry, she is resting, watching one of her favorite movies in the next room. I just popped in there to see her before I went live. But I couldn't miss another show. I had to cancel Friday's Breakfast with Boom, and it killed me because, of course, I love talking about gaming and hanging out with this amazing community. So let's get into, of course, the incredible panel that I have put together. And we have a lot of topics, folks. It's going to be, I think this is going to be one of the better shows in 2020. First up, you know him as the showrunner of Crossfire on Friday nights. He is responsible for so many hashtags. He should be getting a nickel every time someone says hashtag fun or hashtag who's yelling. Please welcome back Mooch.
What's up, buddy? Great show. Gonna be a good time tonight, man. Lots of stuff came up over the weekend, and just like me and you were talking behind the scenes, literally no power here for about 4 or 5 hours. I couldn't do Crossfire, so I'm extremely opinionated. I'm ready to give it out, and I got news for you. Whether there's a lot of energy, whether we're feeling good or not, there's gonna be a lot of yelling tonight. I just can tell you right now.
Well, there's actually a lot to yell about, and there's a lot of stuff that we're going to be talking about that should have a lot of people yelling. But of course, as long as you keep it to a low roar and you don't start using insults when someone doesn't agree with you, we're going to be just fine. So let's continue on with our regular panel now. Noof Nukem and Arnold Schwarzenegger will be making an appearance. They are running late from the airport, so they'll be here shortly. But let me introduce someone. You know him as one of the community's finest. You know him as one of the busiest men in the YouTube scene. On top of that, he's probably one of the biggest Destiny 2 players that I actually know. Please welcome Gaming Forte.
What's up, guys, man? Monday, another great show in the making. We got Mooch here. You know, shout out to Mooch because I just did a podcast with him literally 3 days ago. So I feel like I'm like waking up and seeing Mooch every day, which is always a plus. So, man, let's get into these topics, man. A bunch of stuff happened over the weekend, plus this morning.
Yes, well, we're going to be talking about everything. And of course, last but certainly not least, you know him as the Caped Crusader of this podcast, and someone that is really, I think everyone should watch. That is, especially when you talk about up and coming streamers who actually enjoys gaming, and is someone that I'm proud to work with each and every week. Obviously, he was gone and he had to take about a 2-month hiatus due to work responsibilities, but he is back and he's ready to talk about everything gaming. Please welcome Cybernox.
I'm back, baby. Woo! What's going on, everybody? Boom. Thank you so much for that intro, Forte. Always a pleasure, my friend. And we're here with the great Mooch, everybody. What's up, chat? Let's get this going.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Here is someone that I didn't think was actually going to be here simply because, you know, obviously family responsibilities take a precedent, and this is a family first channel. But you know him as someone that spent the last, 48 plus hours playing Phantasy Star Online 2 like a crack fiend. Please welcome my very good friend, Tempest Son.
Hey, Boom. I am very, 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 very glad I could make it. Yeah, I had a little bit of a false alarm, but thank goodness it was a false alarm. So
that's all that matters, dude.
Yep. So I figured, you know what? I think I can make this episode. So I am super happy to be here. So,
well, listen, it's great to have you here, and I know that you and your wife have been playing the heck out of Phantasy Star Online 2, and you think that this is going to be a big deal for the Xbox platform when it releases later this year.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be big for the Xbox platform. It's going to be big for any platform that has it. It's going to be big for Sega. It's going to be real big for Sega. I think this is going to help out a lot. There was so much positive energy when we played it. It was a pure joy, and I'll legit remember this beta for years to come. That's how much fun we had diving into this thing. It's something special. So,
Well, listen, I'm glad that you enjoyed yourself. I'm glad that you're actually here. And let's get right into, of course, the first topic. Now, normally we like to bring up, we cover everything on this show. This show doesn't cater to one particular brand, but we will, of course, go where the news is. And right now, the news of the hour, the news of the week, the news of 2020 is been about PlayStation 5 versus the Xbox Series X. And you know what? We're not even talking power. What we're talking about is how price is seemingly going to be influenced by the moves of one company watching the other company. And in an article that was sent to me by the outstanding Obi-Wan FTW, fantastic community member, IGN asked a very important question that we're going to be tackling today. And what is Sony going to do regarding the price of the PlayStation 5? Now, Chief Financial Officer Hiroki Totoki stated that he intends to ensure a smooth transition for Sony from the PS4 to the PS5. And what's interesting, though, was his response when he was questioned on exactly how he was going to do this. And this is what he had to say. Sony must control the labor and personnel costs and will prepare the right volume of production and sales ahead of the PlayStation 5 launch. He went on to say that one important factor is that Sony can't control the price level of the next generation space. He implied that Sony is patiently waiting to see the price of the Xbox Series X before putting their own price out there. Now, I'm going to have to go to Mooch first on this because, Mooch, you had a lot of really interesting things to say regarding this exact subject on last week's Basement Radio Arcade podcast that you were a part of. And I don't know. I mean, listen, we talk facts on this show, right? We all know that who likes what console, who owns all consoles, who plays on one specific console. But when you start to see things like this, Mooch, the way that Sony has basically had no answer for anything that Microsoft has done post December 12th, 2019 has me really scratching my head, because you've heard me talk about this when I was on Crossfire. You've heard me talk about this on all of my shows. You've heard me talk about this as a guest on other people's shows, how seemingly incredible their marketing has been this entire generation. And I've been a big fan of it. I've been a big proponent of it. But when you hear the chief financial officer come out and say this publicly, that they have no idea, not willing to announce a price, and they're currently going to wait to see what Microsoft does. This doesn't seem like the same Sony that started out this generation in the lead. And I don't know, man. It seems like they're kind of walking on eggshells. What is your take on this?
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. What you just, the picture you painted right there, it holds water to a certain extent. But you have to look at the differences from where we are. I think where you're basing your picture and your painting from is from 2013. We're not there anymore. And let me explain the difference. The biggest difference is the fact that Sony's not going to be at E3. Okay. So the whole timetable of how we're judging things, the way things were announced back in 2013, it's a completely different page right now. We're in uncharted territory. And what I mean by that is Sony doesn't have to come out in February, March, April. Remember, Microsoft right now, they did what they had to do. They need to stir up a buzz. It's something they haven't done pretty much this entire generation for the most part. Right. For the most part. So what did they do? They revealed it during the Game Awards. Great move. Great move. But realistically, except for knowing that it's a rectangular box, we don't really know anything else from Microsoft either. We don't know the cost. We don't know if there's a second console coming. We don't know what games besides Halo's coming out for it. We don't know the true power. Right? There's a lot of speculation. 2 times this, 8 times that, right? If you guys want to break out your long division, do what you got to do. But I mean, realistically, Sony's in a situation right now, and we'll get into the price part of your question. I'm kind of breaking it down into 2 different parts here. But Sony not showing anything right now. Consider this, folks. They're not going to be at E3. So they're not going to just have a little, reveal where they just raise a big handkerchief and be like, there it is. And we're out. We'll see you guys in June. There is no June.
Right.
So I think, Chris 713, who says damage control. I don't think I'm damage controlling anything. I'm presenting a situation. And the situation is that when Sony does do what they're going to do, okay, they're going to have to put on a glamorous show, boom, because this in essence is going to be the big deal because they're not going to be
it's going to have to be technically their E3 whenever it is.
Exactly. So they're not going to do a quick snippet like they did in February of 2013 because they had that and then they had E3. This big reveal that they're going to have is going to be basically a smidgen of what E3 was with that February reveal. So you got to give them a little bit of time there. That I get. Plus, they don't really have to reveal anything. They really don't. I mean, the consoles come out in November. It's February. It's freezing. Right? I mean, it's not even. Come on, there's something. We haven't even gotten to the summer gloom and doom of going through our backlogs. So I mean, they don't have to do that. The price on the other point there, but I want to answer part 2 of your point is. Let's stop and remember about 2013. I had a good feeling in my heart. I think you guys will all agree with me who are listening to the show that Sony was going to put their camera in the box as well. And they were going to sell this bad boy for $499 as well.
Mm-hmm.
When they saw how bad things went, okay, they changed everything. They pulled the camera out. They lowered it by $100. What Sony's doing here, in essence, is they're basically saying, okay, let Microsoft come out and announce $599. Then we can be $499. If Microsoft decides to eat the 100, okay, because I do think the Microsoft box
is going to be $499. I'm telling you right now.
That's fine. So if it's $499, Sony's going to eat it, and they're going to go $399. Because here's the deal. They're going to beat them on price because Microsoft's going to beat them on performance. So realistically, coming to you see where I'm coming? They want to be the best in price because they're not going to be able to beat them in power. So,
I think it's a little bit more than that, Mooch. I got to be honest with you because we've been talking about this 2-prong attack. And again, depending on who you listen to, I happen to like Dealer, for instance. I happen to really respect Dealer. I've worked with him for a ton of times. I've been on his show. He's been on mine. And from what we've discussed privately, he has some inside sources. And Lockhart is real, regardless of whether they're going to call it Lockhart. It's going to be the Series S and the X at launch. Sony's in a bit of a pickle. And I think that's what you're starting to see. That's what you're seeing here. This is why there's no answer, because as we know, and again, folks, don't get crazy in the chat here. We're only going based on what we have heard through rumors from different things that everyone else has talked about, right? If, let's just say, for instance, the PS5 is the not 9.2 teraflops, that they overclocked everything and they got it to 10. Microsoft's box is still going to be 12 teraflops. Microsoft is the only company of the two that is in a financial position to be able to drop a price $100 and not feel it and not have their shareholders feel it. Sony is not in that kind of position. So I got news for you. It's going to be for $499 for the PS5. And it's going to be $499 for the Xbox Series X. But this is where the double-edged sword comes. And this is why Sony is walking on eggshells, because they're going to be releasing 2 consoles at the same time. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be attacking the casual market, the 85+ million consoles sold on the PlayStation 4, and having that box at $300. And they're going to have the more powerful box. Sony is, again, this is just my opinion, but based on their maneuvers so far, everyone says, "Oh yeah, you say like, oh, it's February." It is February, but the consoles are have to be put into production sooner than later.
Yeah, but boom, the thing is, you got to understand. If you got to, and you're very good at this. You probably give the most detailed notes of any podcast I've ever been on. You've got to look at what you're saying, though. The point of what you just said. It makes a great discussion piece for the show, but there's no walking on eggshells here at all. Because think about it, The Lockhart, okay, which I do believe is a thing, is going to be the lesser powered console.
Yes.
Okay. The X is going to be the most powerful console, the Series X. And then you've got the PlayStation, which is going to be literally, let's just be honest, a smidgen behind the X. You know, I mean, 10 teraflops, 12 teraflops. Here's the point of the matter. When you're talking about the casual market, both of the PS5 and the Series X are both going to do 4K 60. Okay? And that's what it comes. So when they're saying they're going to wait, think about it for a second here. If they are in the $399 price range for the PS5 and they're going that route, they're going to be that sweet spot in the middle, right? It's literally, you know, this porridge is too hot, this porridge is too cold, and this one's just right in the middle. So what I'm trying to say to you is if you have one that's $499 and it's the most powerful, listen, again, I have to reiterate this. I haven't been on your show in a while. We are hardcore gamers.
Right.
Everybody in the chat tonight is going to be buying a Series X. Most people in the chat are going to be buying a PS4 or PS5, pardon me. We buy everything eventually. Even if you don't buy it once on day one, you're going to buy it eventually. So you keep that in mind. So folks, when I'm speaking in generality here because we are talking about grabbing both these companies want to grab the casual market. So there's no walking on eggshells here because Sony's going to wait. They're going to try. The key word here in air quotes is try. They may not be able to do it, boom, but they're going to try to undercut Microsoft's price and realize that they can put the exact same thing on their box that Microsoft's putting on their box. 4K, 60 frames. That's what we're telling you, and that's what Microsoft's saying. When you start getting into ray tracing and other buzzwords that only the hardcore pay attention to, they don't care. So then you go down to say, okay, Mook, fine, I hear what you're saying. Microsoft wants to win the price battle. They've got Lockhart. Lockhart's also rumored to have no disc tray, okay? It's gonna be discless. It's gonna be weaker than the PS5. So that's a category that may end up striking gold for them. They might strike oil with that. Or it might end up being just You know what I mean? It may be the console, you know, the successful failure, the Apollo 13 of consoles. Okay, it may just be there and people just kind of wave by it because it doesn't hit their fancy. Because the thing of the matter is if they're both $399, let's say Sony does that, right? So $399 for the PS5, $399 for the Lockhart. Well, you're gonna get the PS5's more powerful. So
yeah, but they wouldn't release it at $399 because that's going to be a $300 box with no disk drive.
That's the thing. But once you say no disk drive, remember something. This is a very unique, again, this is what I said when we started the show. We are in a unique situation here, folks. This is a generation where it's not a stopgap. It's not a stopgap. So all of your CDs, all of your games, all of your music, all of your accessories, they come with you. So when you say Sony's got to do it because Microsoft showed their, no, they don't. They don't have to do it. It's 109 million in the wild to 50 million. And you're talking about the fact that when this console comes out, it's more than likely that the X is going to be more powerful, and it's more than likely that the PS5 is going to be cheaper. So the hardcore are going to go out there and grab another PS5. They're going to grab a Series X, depending on what camp you're in. But the thing of the matter is that they're not going to, no one from the PlayStation camp's going to go, the 200 games I bought this generation, the hell with it. The hell with all them. They stay in the past. I'm not bringing them along. Microsoft showed me their box during the Game Awards. I got to go with the Series X. No, it doesn't work that way. So regardless of all of these other facts that are coming through, which I believe, I'm just trying to say to you that I don't think Sony's in any kind of predicament to have to do anything right now for the three reasons I gave. Basically, their reveal will be their E3. Right. They're going to beat the Series X in pricing. And they've also got the larger install base, bringing all of their games, all of their friends, all of their nostalgia, which is a hell of a drug, with them into next generation. They don't have to do the mold.
Here's the thing, though. Yeah, you know what? I mean, listen, I agree with what you're saying. I understand. I actually understand what you're saying. But the way that you're positioning it is as if that it's a lock that they're going to come in cheaper. And I'm telling you that they're not coming in cheaper. So the reason why, let me tell you something right now. If you are a diehard Sony fan, you must be sitting rocking in the corner because you have had no information whatsoever.
Well, Boom, answer me a question though, real quick. You say that you know it for a fact. If they're not going to be cheaper for a fact, then why are they waiting to see the competitor's price?
Well,
they're waiting because they're going to undercut them.
You know what?
I think they're waiting just so they can either match them at least.
Right. Exactly. They'll match them at the worst. Exactly, Simon.
Yeah.
Can I say something real quick about the huge install base?
Well, you know what? Actually, let me go to you, Tempest, son, because first of all,
let's go, Tempest.
He continued with what is not very clear or visible is because we are competing in the space. So it's very difficult to discuss anything about the price at this point of time. And depending on the price level, we may have to determine the promotion that we're going to deploy on how much that costs and what we're prepared to pay. Now, listen, I'm going to say this. This is a very corporate answer. And again, I understand it's February, but they have not given any information whatsoever. And just because they have, and that's the thing that's you have to really take into account here. When you say, well, they have 106 million, is I believe the last number was 105. I'll round it off to 106.
It's 109.
So it's 109. You have to equate that at least 80 million of those consoles are casual gamers that went out and bought the PlayStation 4 when it came with 4 games and it was $200 on Black Friday. You're not going to get those gamers who are currently the same folks that buy 3 games per year to go out and buy a $500 PlayStation 5 just because it's the new hotness. Now, see, this is the difference, though. When you look at what Microsoft is doing, you got to remember how many gamers left the Xbox 360 to go to the PlayStation 4 for price and power. There were a shit ton of gamers, tons of them. I want to say maybe 25, 30 million easily. So who's to say that if Sony loses on both ends, both price and power, that those same gamers, because that's the misconception that keeps going on in almost every conversation. Well, just a second, Boom. No one is going to give up their library. No one's asking you to do that. You can keep your library. I said this before and I'll say it again. This new generation is going to be the biggest generation where there's going to be multiple consoles in the home. And I have a strong feeling that a lot of those same gamers that left for the PS4 because of price and power will be coming back to the Xbox for the exact same thing. Tempest, take it away, brother.
Well, first of all, I got to say, let's give a hand to Boom here. You can hear it in this man's voice. He's recovering from the flu. This man is a trooper. He's here doing this show, so I got to give you props. If it was me, I'd be in the fetal position in bed. So, but to your point, you almost took the words right out of my mouth. We're sitting here assuming you attach 109 million consoles, and you think to yourself in our broad terms, just like Mooch likes to say, he wants to speak in generalities here. Listen, we are the hardcore. We could say, oh, we have 200, 300 games because we do. I got news for you. The stigma or the stereotype, whatever you want to call it, of the casual gamer is a real thing. These people, these casual gamers, they're not buying RPGs maybe like left and right where you've put 200 hours in. No, these casual gamers are buying the FIFAs, the Call of Duties. They're buying all these franchises that they're annual. They're never going back to those previous ones ever. That's a yearly thing. They go out and buy the yearly call. We just got the decade-long best-selling games list, and I think Call of Duty was dethroned one time, I believe. One time. Yeah. The entire decade. These people buy these annual games, and if they don't buy them, they're playing something like Fortnite, which is on its own account, or they're going to be playing something like Destiny, which is on its own account. You can get that save file anywhere. That's the way gaming is going to this point. So, I think the assumption that all of these people, I agree with you, Boom. I think it's probably around 80% or so. I mean, put it in perspective. One of the
That's a
most
crazy number.
Yeah.
80%.
Well, it might be crazy, but I kind of believe that's.
Well, the thing about it, and I think, Tempest, where you're going with this is, I'll just counter you real quick. I think your point you're trying to drive home is the casuals buy those 2-3 titles a year, and it changes every year, so their allegiance is to no system. But
Right.
where you're wrong is where all their friends bought and they have been playing. Their friends might have
play
more
has removed that off the table, Mooch.
Yeah, but you understand, Boom. If 5 of your friends are playing Call of Duty on the PlayStation 4, okay, let's say out of the 5 friends, 3 of them are hardcore. They have 150 games, 200 games. They're going to buy a PS5. The other 3 that don't care are going to also buy a PS5 because they want to play with their friends. And that's just the way it goes. And listen, you can make a great argument all you want, but that literally the way the dominoes fell this
Careful with
generation.
Call of Duty though. Call of Duty is cross play now.
It doesn't matter cross play because your friends are on PS5. It's
but
the
consumers now. If you look at a casual,
it doesn't matter. They can talk on PS now. They hang out. They have maybe there's a game that comes out that's only on PlayStation. If they went and bought an Xbox Series X and the other 4 are on PlayStation 5. Why you gotta again remove yourself from the podcast?
I am. So
I'm
what
just
about
saying, if 4 of your friends have a PS5,
that's the last part comes out at $299. You don't think the casual,
casual
because
you didn't hear my entire situation though, Cyber. What I'm saying to you is, if 3 of the 5 are hardcore and they have the 100 games, 3 of your buddies are going PS5 because they want to bring everything with them. Hear me out. Yes, all of a sudden you go, hey guys, look, the Lockhart's $100 cheaper. Dude's gonna be like, dude, I got 200 games I'm bringing. Come over to the PS5. Did the PS4 hurt your feelings? No. All right, to buy a PS5, we're going over. That's how friends talk. If they don't, real life is different than when we talk on the shows.
So what about if the casual doesn't have the same library, the same size library as the hardcore gamer? He doesn't care. He just wants to play.
He doesn't care, but he wants to play where his friends are, and his friends are getting a PS. I'm using that situation.
I completely understand what you're saying, but what I'm trying to counter you is if they're just a casual person who goes in here, plays, turns their consoles on and plays, they're gonna look for the cheapest option.
Yes,
my personal opinion.
I don't think it's always. I think friends play a major role. I think wherever you're and thank you, Forte. Listen, if you don't want to listen to me, listen to Forte. He's got his ear to the ground. He's in the business.
Listen, wait. Before we continue,
people like stuff cheap, man. That is why there are more third-rate porn shops than there are
Welcome, Noof. Listen, before we get up, or we continue with this, I have to catch up on the super chats. I am super behind, and we got a ton of them to catch up with. JMO Series X drops a $2 super chat. He says, "Horse of another color." Hashtag sports evening panel. Thank you so much for being here. Spider-Man drops a $5 super chat, and he says, "With the success of the X Series X reveal, Phil told Games Radar that he plans to do an even bigger, bolder moves going forward with releasing Xbox Series X information and news." Yes, and that's actually been confirmed. Let me see now. Rain G4 drops a $5 super chat. He says all Microsoft has to do is say our console will be $50 cheaper than the PS5. And you know what? I mean, listen, it's gonna be I think a real big chess game. Then Face 23 BKNY says, well, he drops a $5 super chat, so thanks for that, dude. He says, at Boom, how is Sony not able to release the PS5 at a loss when they just bought Insomniac Games for $233 million? Because they're just not Microsoft, dude. I'm not saying that they're broke. I'm not saying that they're not in the black. I'm saying that they're not in a position to do a move that big on a loss that large.
Nintendo did it in the 80s.
They did it in the 80s. I mean, we'll see.
Eagles fans, what I'm saying. You got to really think about it. Like it's we all say, we can't talk, financials. Like they definitely can do it. Now, I think the real question that you should ask is, do they want to do it? I mean, probably that's not debatable. But will they do it? That's the thing. It's been done since the 80s and 90s. Well, let me continue on because there's a lot to catch up here. I'm sorry, dude. Eagles fan 76 drops a $2 super chat. He says, "Why wait for if $3.99? Just say
it is, or is it's really $499? Well, that's a good question. I think they're going to wait on that. Let me see. Well, someone detracted the message, but they dropped a $10 super chat, and I want to say thank you for that. Eagles fan 76 drops another $2 super chat. He says, where are the shows Sony is supposed to be at? Well, I mean, it's still early in the year, so I don't know. JD Gamer drops a $5 super chat. Thanks for being here, JD. Really appreciate the generosity. He says gamers are fickle. PS fans on the PS2 ran to the Xbox while cursing Sony while they screwed up. And the same thing happened to the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One. That is very correct. And it could easily happen here. And here's Philly Eagle. Hey, dude, thanks so much for being here. And thank you for the generosity. He drops a $5 super chat. And he says, serious question. Why is there still a debate about what everyone else is playing? Do you not make up your own mind, or do you have to be a follower? Just saying, yeah. And then he drops another $5 super chat. Thanks so much, Eagle. He says, I mean, I enjoy a healthy debate, but as long as you're having fun gaming, that's all that should matter. Doesn't matter what or where, in my opinion.
That's true.
And that's very true. Geezer drops a $3 super chat. Thank you so much for that. Elemental P, welcome to the show, dude. He drops a $5 super chat, and he says, what if your friends see it's better to play those games on Series X? They still have their old gamer tags on Xbox too. It's easy to switch back. And our very good friend Enrique drops a $10 super chat, and he says this: if this was the generation to win, consumers are tied to their digital libraries, tied to their achievements, and tied to their friends list. Mike Ybarra stated it that it's very hard for people to leave. Yeah, you know what? I agree with that. But again, with cross play and cross progression, it's not as difficult as it once was before. I actually think that it's irrelevant.
Cloud either.
Yeah, I mean, and JD Gamer drops another super chat for $10. Thanks for that, dude. He says, Mooch, I like your argument, but let me tell you where you're wrong. 80% are the casuals, and the more likely scenario is that there will be 5 casuals with 1 hardcore in the bunch, with the price driving the sales. And I have to agree. There. But listen, I want to get Gaming Forte's opinion on this, because obviously, I say this usually in his opening. He has his ear to the floor, like Mooch was saying, because he works in the retail business. He works for GameStop, and besides being an incredible human being and one of my very dear friends, I enjoy having his opinions on this show because he gets to talk to the consumers, the ones that we normally don't talk to. He gets to. So Forte, let me ask your opinion on this. It seems Sony, at least again, in my opinion, and I'm gonna get hate mail for it, and that's cool, they seem a little skittish. They seem a little out of control. They don't seem as confident, and they certainly are not exuding the same confidence that they did this entire generation. And when you hear the chief financial officer saying, well, right now, we want to see what Microsoft is going to do before we make a move. Yes. Is it good business? Sure. But is it confident business? No. What are your thoughts on that?
So, listening to you guys go back and forth on this, I mean, nobody's really wrong in this state of what you guys are talking about. The biggest thing is there is so many new faces in new positions at Sony, but the handbook and the blueprint is still the same.
Yes.
They still got the same blueprint, but it's just new people in new places. And there is probably it's not even probably, there is some nervous hands being shaken out there and stuff, because they want to make sure that, this falls on them. Everything that goes forward with the PS5 literally falls at their feet. So yes, they know what the plan is, but Microsoft is being more aggressive more than ever this generation towards the end of it. And they probably were going into this thinking that it was going to be ho hum Microsoft, they were going to continue to keep going down the same road. But no, they turned the heat up. And I don't think they're afraid of what's going to happen. I just think right now it's a little bit uncertainty. They're not worried, I don't think, to an extent where it's like panic button type worry.
Right.
But they are. I think. Look, if I was Sony, if it would be a situation where I would wait. I mean, you've seen what happens when they do wait. That was the whole purpose of them going second at E3 all the freaking time.
Yes.
You know, things they hear from their main competitor what they're going to do, and they can literally change on the fly. I think Mooch is 100% right. I do believe that price is very much dictated on what Microsoft talks about. We already pretty much have a finite timeline on when we're going to find out about the price on the Series X. I don't think they're going to wait past E3. I think that's going to be something that's going to be talked at E3. So Sony pretty much knows somewhere around E3, we're going to hear the price of the Xbox. So we really don't have to talk about that. And the one thing people keep forgetting is Sony still has games releasing on PS4 this year that are going over to PlayStation. So they're not going to be wanting for any type of news cycle, because once, you know, Final Fantasy comes out in April, which is not an exclusive, just console exclusive right now. Then you got, you know, Last of Us, probably the biggest game of the generation for them, coming out in May, right before E3. So they really don't have to really worry about talking about PlayStation 5 right now. They can take their time to do it. Now, is that right? I mean, it depends on who you are. Me personally, I know I'm going to buy a PS5 day one, so it doesn't bother me. I don't care what the freaking price is.
Well, I'll be waiting for the text from you to let me know when I can reserve it.
I told you it would be my first text before I tell everybody else. But I don't think...
That'll be a second. Dang.
Yeah, I got you. But I don't think this... And the thing is, Sony... This is the thing. Once those games release, and then once they get the news from Microsoft what they're going to do, I think they're going to act accordingly. I don't think they're not going to be higher. They're not going to probably be the same price. I think if I was Sony, what do you make the most money on? Do you make it on systems, or do you make it on software?
Well, I mean, technically, I think that the answer you're looking for is they've already said it. They want to get this console in so many hands faster than they've ever done before. So if that in fact is the case, then they're probably going to power price it at $400.
And that's what I'm thinking. As much as look, if I was a company that wants to get remember when we all a long time ago when everybody was like, when Microsoft was doing, and they're still doing it to this day, where they're doing the sign-ups and you can pay monthly and stuff for your Xbox, and people kept saying, why won't Microsoft just give the system away? Do you realize how many games you would sell at that point? Well, I mean, that's kind of suicide, because, you know, then you're throwing a ton of money away. Right. But $100 loss on a system that you're going to probably sell 80 million again on, because I think the 100 million is kind of it's not an afterthought, but I think it's kind of,
I mean, it's a lock for the Sony brand simply because of
So it's juiced up from the beginning of the generation, because this is the biggest thing that I always try to tell people this. The biggest difference between this generation and the last generation, when Xbox and PlayStation were neck and neck, 86 to 82. The problem is, most people that bought PlayStation's or Xbox's last generation from PlayStation, they didn't do that this generation, and rightfully so. Xbox didn't give them a reason to buy the system last generation. I do believe this will be the generation where you see a little bit of that normalcy, where you see multiple console homes again. And that's going to be what's going to basically really benefit Microsoft, because Sony, I think, had already plateaued kind of where their number is going to be at. I mean, it may not be 109 or whatever it finishes at, but it's going to be really, really strong. But overall, Sony's going to come out being super aggressive, because they have to be at this point. If Microsoft comes out with a $500 system,
and the $300 system,
I mean, well, see, the thing about I'll give you the thing about the $300 system, and you're absolutely right. The casuals tend to go to the lowest denominator when it comes to that. But I look at that more as, when I'm talking to a guest, I'm not going to tell them like, hey, the Xbox Lockhart is the cheapest of the three, but then I'm going to tell them what the benefits of it are. But then I'm also going to convince that with the benefits of the PlayStation and what the benefits of the Series X are. And most people, like Mooch said, when you're sitting right in the middle, you become more appealing. Because you're not the cheapest, but you're not the most expensive. You're pretty much sitting right there in the middle for a lot of people. But then it would also go back to that whole conversation. Where do your friends play at? Do your friends play here? Do they play there? Well, what games do you play? Well, if you play Call of Duty, it doesn't matter because your account can go anywhere. But if you want to play other games like God of War, Last of Us, and all that other stuff, then get PlayStation. If you like Halo and everything else, and you want to be able to get Game Pass, 300 games instantly to your library, get Xbox. Well, PlayStation now has that too. It's just not, talked about as much as Game Pass is. So it really just comes down to the shell game that both of these companies are kind of playing right now with each other. And Sony is at an agitated situation where they don't have to talk about anything because they have major titles still releasing throughout the year that they can fall back on. But for the people that care about it, like me, you, and everybody else on this panel, we just want to know how much the freaking system costs so we can start pre-ordering it. We're the ones that are left in the cold because Sony, they know they're going to sell out of all their systems when they release. That's going to happen regardless. And when people walk into, and just to be honest, more people walk in the store, it's pretty even. A lot of people ask for Xboxes. A lot of people ask, when's the next PlayStation come out? And, no answers on that right now, but it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this generation go. Even with Microsoft in 2013, when they had the worst, launch that I think they've ever had when it comes to a system, the day that system launched, I still had like over 300 pre-orders. I remember in my back room with all the systems lined up on the floor because we did a midnight that night, and every last one of those systems got picked up at midnight for Xbox. It was like 300 and something Xboxes. PlayStation was the week before. It was about 400 and something systems. And I think that's going to be the same thing this generation all over again. The only difference is Microsoft's going to be on a little bit more footing, and they don't have to worry about the mismanagement of messaging they had last generation. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how this plays out. But no matter what, it depends on the gamer at that point. If you are tied to a digital library and most of your games are digital, you're probably going to stay with the system you're already on. Like, friends are the most important thing to me. That's why I play on Xbox, not on PlayStation. But for some other people, it might just be your library. It may not be anybody else. You might want to play Call of Duty on Xbox because it's the more powerful system. But no one really knows that until, that all that stuff is revealed. But price will be a major component. And the Lockhart is just going to be that entry point for mom and dad this holiday that's going to walk into a store. Now, that's everybody keeps saying that the casuals are going to flock to the cheapest system. It's not going to be the casuals. It's going to be the moms and dad buying Christmas gifts for their kids at the end of the year. The hardcore is going to pick the system no matter which one is going to be good for me. PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X.
Or like most of us on this panel, both.
Exactly. Right. So that's the overall narrative that's going to happen, and we'll find out more, but we just waiting for Sony to say something about it.
Well, listen, everyone had great points, but I have to get to Noof Nukem. Noof, first of all, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Super, super appreciate it. Before I get to you, though, I just have to do a couple of quick shout-outs for Super Chats. Charles Paul, he drops a $2 Super Chat. First of all, that's a new name that I didn't see. So first of all, welcome to the show. He asks a question. I thought it was a little weird. Who would trade Spider-Man for Crackdown? You see, that's the thing, dude. I wouldn't trade either because I beat the hell out of both of them. Love them equally. Spider-Man, I'm playing right now, as a matter of fact. I was playing it just before I went live on the show, and I beat the heck out of Crackdown 3, and I hope they make a Crackdown 4. Spider-Man drops a $5 super chat. He says, did you hear about Sony's patent for the app that for the PlayStation 5 to charge microtransactions to players that are stuck in a game like Siri? Yes, I did hear about that. That is the disaster. I don't think it's going to come true because it's a PR nightmare already for Sony. Rain G4 drops an additional $4 super chat, and he says, what if the price doesn't help Sony in sales? I mean, they're going to sell that console. That console is going to sell, but I don't know if what it's going to do for them regarding actual monies. You see, right now, when you look at how much money Sony has made, I mean, they made a killing in software sales, right? And console sales this generation. And if you look how close, and I don't mean it's close, like, they can just throw their loot over the fence, but Microsoft, the way that Sony sold, Microsoft should have been 10-1. and they didn't. And how did Microsoft make all that money and be close to Sony, be close to Nintendo through services and Game Pass and Xbox Live and things like that? And that's what they're going to be focusing on. JD Gamer drops a $10 super chat. He says Sony liked being the bigger company and the bully I just lost it. Hold on just a sec. JD Gamer. He says Sony liked being the bigger company and the bully back when the PS1 was just up against the much smaller companies, Sega and Nintendo. In those days, they went first. Since Microsoft has been in the gaming, it's always been second. Yeah, because they like to take that wait and see. And the wait and see approach has worked for them. But Noof, I want to get your opinion on this because everyone has had a lot of great stuff to say. Price is going to matter, okay? But I really get I scratch my head when people say, "Well, you know what, Boom? Power doesn't matter as much as it used to mean anymore," which is you're all full of shit if you're saying that right now. I'm telling you, okay? Because the reason why Sony, the PlayStation 4, basically curb stomped the Xbox was for price and power, right? Price and power mattered. Price and power moved gamers on the Xbox 360 to the PlayStation 4. Now we're going to move into the next generation, and if everything kind of lines up the way it's supposed to line up, and based on what we're hearing, and you have a 12 teraflop monster, and it's the most powerful and has all the bells and whistles and it has everything that that you want as a gamer, and then they come out with the two-prong attack, and they give you a $300 option for those casual gamers who only buy 2 games a year. And now you factor in xCloud, you factor in Xbox Game Pass with 200 plus games in there. It's going to be a big deal for a lot of people, and you could see a lot of people still hold on to their PlayStation 4s with their digital libraries, but maybe go out and buy an Xbox. Do you think that's what's going to happen, Noof?
Price always matters. Yes, price really matters most to the people, again, that, like I think Forte mentioned, that go out and buy the Call of Duty games, the more of the casual gamer. We see this all the time. We see that the largest numbers of consoles sold are always towards the end of a gen when the consoles are at their cheapest. You see all the bundle deals. You see the Black Friday deals. You know what? And power matters, but you know what? Come Black Friday, when that PS4 is sitting on the shelf for $199 and the PS4 Pro is, an extra $150 more, whatever it be, well, guess which one always outsells? Again, it is always the price that kicks its butt. Power matters to the hardcore. Power matters to the guys that really like the best performance. I think a lot of people on this panel definitely like their power. You like it when you can get a little bang for the buck, like a little bit of both, a great price, great performance. For Microsoft, it's not going to matter in the same extent that it is with Sony. We don't really know what Sony's plans are so far. We know they got at least one console in the works, but we don't know if they're going to do multiple SKUs. Microsoft looks like they're leaning toward multiple SKUs, right? And they don't really care if you're going to play it on the X, or you're going to play it on this Lockhart or whatever they're calling it, or the Series X. They just want you to play their games. They want you to invest in the Game Pass. They want you in their ecosystem. They're not as concerned about the price. Those guys who really want the top-notch performance, you want the frame rate, the resolution. Most of us have already decided we're going to go out and get the X or the Series X. I mean, we saw, look, with the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, when they came out, they were almost neck and neck in power for the most part. But yes, the narrative was definitely about the power, and that's sort of what helped carry Sony through that little bit of a stumble on their launch too, because their launch lineup, as far as I'm concerned, and I think many will agree, was definitely not as strong as Microsoft. The ace in that coal and the kicker for Microsoft was they bundled in the Kinect. They couldn't get the price down to compete. Now, for me, I wasn't angry that I had to pay $100 more for the Kinect. I was angry at the fact that 2 years into the life cycle, they killed the Kinect, and basically, so we paid $100 for what? Basically something useless. Basically another Surrey kind of a toy. So look, I mean, price is paramount. You got to be competitive. If they're going to go with multiple SKUs, I'm going to give a little bit of the edge to Xbox because they might have multiples. And even then, if the Lockhart comes out and it's still out of reach, well, I have a feeling that Microsoft may push the Xbox One X for another while longer because it is capable of playing all those games. Again, it all depends on where they're going with their games. They're saying it's forward compatible, backwards compatible. I don't know what Sony's plan is here. Is Sony going to have exclusives that will only run on PS5? See, that's the kicker for me, because if I'm going to drop my money, like every generation, I pretty much own every console. But if I'm going to drop my money on either one, day one, I'm more likely to go with PlayStation 5. Not because I like PlayStation 5 more per se. It's because it's probably going to have an ample amount of power for a decent price, and it'll probably play games. Obviously, one, I can't play on my Xbox, and I'm probably not going to be able to play them on PC, and I don't know if they're going to be able to be played on my PS4 Pro. So if they're going to say, well, I'm, excuse me, if they're going to tell me that, hey, this game is only playable on the PlayStation 5, you basically need this console to play it. The dreaded exclusive word. Some people can't stand it, but hey, it is what sells. Otherwise, we'd all have one fast food restaurant and everybody would sell multiple burgers. But you're going to go, and like I said, that's where I'm going to lean. I want my Xbox. I'm probably going to buy the Series X. I just don't know if it's day one, but price is definitely paramount. I think Sony's going to come in firing. They're going to come in competitive. They're waiting to see what Microsoft's going to do. They always do this shit, and it drives me nuts because they're always the wait and see guy. Microsoft's always the first guy to dip their toe in the cold water and see if it's deep or not, and then Sony goes, yep, you can jump in now. It's good to go. And that's pretty much how they've been rolling it for the last decade. Sony's afraid to show up at shows, and it's the truth. They're afraid to show up at the shows because honestly, they think by showing nothing is less embarrassing by showing basically going to a show and telling people we really have nothing to show. Like they're right now, their numbers are everybody's gloating the numbers, 106 million, 100 whatever million. That's all. Every time Microsoft shines the spotlight in their direction, they come back with their big numbers saying numbers. Hey, price doesn't matter, everybody. If it did, nobody would have bought the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo never drops that freaking thing hardly ever. They might bundle in a game, but again, who's buying a Nintendo Switch primarily? Yeah, we bought one as a secondary console. Everybody here in this panel probably bought one as a secondary console. I already sold mine and I have no regrets, but most people buy the Switch because why? It's got exclusives you can't get anywhere else. It appeals to the masses. It appeals to the casuals more so than the hardcore. And again, if it was your single console, nobody out there would have bought it. If you were saying I'm buying one console, how many people here would have went with the Nintendo Switch? I'd say zero. Maybe like a little 10-year-old kid who doesn't know any difference, doesn't know the difference between PS5 and is convinced that they can play all the same games. But that's it, man. Like I said, price is paramount. They got to be competitive. Hopefully there's not going to be a big difference between 1 and 2, but like I said, Lockhart should certainly close that gap, make it competitive out of the box, and it is really going to come down to launch lineup as well. Who's got the great looking titles at launch? And Microsoft's got to be able to show us, I'll say it again, when they drop that Series X, they have to be able to show fans why you should drop the extra money on that particular console. And if they don't do that messaging properly, they're going to shoot themselves in the foot for a little while. They got to have some stuff that goes, wow, I need to play it on that console, baby.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Real
Did
quick.
I sum it up?
Yes. No, that's actually a great way to sum it up. But you know what? It makes a lot of point. I want to get Cybernock's last opinion on this particular topic before we move on, because I know Mooch is normally not this quiet for this long. So we're going to get him in here in a second. But Cyber, why don't you close out this amazing topic with what you have to say?
Yeah, I'll make it quick because I pretty much have close to the same points that everybody here has. But Sony, PlayStation is a position where they literally have to do nothing. They don't have to do anything. They have the install base of 109 million. Now, what I think they're doing is they're playing this game. I think they fully intended to release the PS5 at $499. The specs are too close to the X, to the Series X, for it to be $399. Right. So, in my opinion, is they're just gonna play this chicken game with Microsoft to see where they're gonna release it at. If they release it at $499, I think they'll match it. But maybe because they have such a huge install base, they need to sell as much or as many PS5s as they can, as fast as they can, due to like economy of scale, right? They need to get these things out there because they're going to be losing money.
Jim Ryan himself said that, Cyber.
Right. Oh, okay. So they're going to be losing money in the first, I don't know how many millions of consoles that they put out there. So I can see them putting the console at $399 just so they can get as many consoles out there as fast as they can. But I believe they'll be taking $100 loss, because if Microsoft is selling this at $499, the specs are too close, and I don't know, man. It's just gonna be something fun to see. And I told you guys this before. It's a little bit telling that Sony is not saying anything, because if you think about it, Sony they've been announcing things before Microsoft, before Xbox, for I don't know how many years now. right? They haven't been afraid to show the PS. Which one did they show? The PS5 first? No. They showed the PS4 first. They had their own event.
Yes.
They relieved. They released the price. They did everything, right? So them not saying anything, like I said, they don't have to say anything, but them not saying anything kind of give them I think Microsoft caught them with a nunchuck through the throat. They lost their breath real quick, and now they're scrambling to figure out what's going on. But like Forte mentioned, they have a blueprint. They'll be fine. But I think if it goes at $399, they're just trying to get as many consoles out there as fast as they can, just so they, the economy of scale can balance itself. But that's my thought.
No, well, listen, great point. Real quick, I have to thank Basement Radio Arcade Podcast drops a $2 super chat, and in funny fashion, Enrique says, if power matters to you, buy a PC Master Race. He loves toting the PC Master Race. But listen, I want to move on to the next topic. I just have to give me a second to just kind of move on out of the banners, and I'll bring up the new one. And of course, I want to bring up one of my favorite pictures of our said leader. There he is, Phil Spencer with the rocket launcher. Listen, this next topic is going to be, I think, is going to be a good one. Mooch, I know you're going to have a lot to say about this, and I think that you might have to, because you enjoy sports and you love using your analogies, especially with sports. You got to give Phil Spencer credit for the swagger that he currently has. And in an interview, Microsoft's boss, that guy right on the screen, says that Amazon and Google are their main competitors. And what's even more interesting, Mooch, is how Phil Spencer specifically explains why both Sony and Nintendo pose no threat when you talk about world of cloud gaming. And you see it in the thing, you see it where it says that I feel like he dropped the mic. Speaking in an interview with a newly launched technology publication called Protocol, Spencer dismisses Sony and Nintendo's ability to create a cloud infrastructure that will challenge Microsoft, Google, or Amazon. And here is one of his quotes, Mooch. He says, when you talk about Nintendo and Sony, we have a ton of respect for them. We see Amazon and Google as the main competitors going forward. This is not to disrespect Sony or Nintendo, but the traditional gaming companies are somewhat out of position. I guess they could try and recreate Azure, but we've invested tens of billions of dollars in the cloud over the years. They have not. Now, listen, I understand that you cannot discount. I'm not going to sit here and say that you can't discount Sony or Nintendo in the next generation. But when you look at the bricks that Microsoft is laying right now, it goes so beyond just the box that we just spent almost an hour talking about. Besides the Series X that are going to be coming out probably at the same time at the end of the year in October or November, you have Project X Cloud, which if you have not used it, all I'm going to say is try and figure out a way to get into that beta, because when you see it going and working in front of you, it's like magic. You cannot believe what you're seeing. That is the future. Cloud gaming is the future. Now, not everyone is going to take advantage of it, but you have to remember there is a generation of gamers today that play on their phones and their tablets because that's what they grew up playing. See, we're the old guard. Everyone on this panel, everybody that's in this chat right now, we're the older gaming crowd, right? We want the traditional box. We want to spend $500 on the PS5 and on the Series X. We're going to spend that $1,000 and not even blink an eye doing it. But there's an entire millions upon millions and millions of gamers that grew up playing on tablets, that grew up playing on phones. This is why Project X Cloud is going to be so superior, and it's why it's one of those things that Sony does not have. Then you look at the perfect example of that is you look at Xbox Game Pass. Right now, everyone says, well, wait a second, boom, just a second. Sony has PSN. And I say PSN is a piece of trash. Okay. It is not the same thing. Okay. If you want to play PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games, good on you. But they do not have day and date PlayStation 4 games. When you're going to tell me that Last of Us 2 is going in their day and date, sign me up for 3 years, just like I'm paid up for Xbox Game Pass right now.
Here's the thing, though, Boom. You know, it's just they don't have to. Again,
yeah,
you know,
but you keep saying that. Yes, they eventually have to.
But yeah, but eventually, we're talking about today. Today is February 10th, 2020. If you're saying eventually, I'd also like to know next week's lotto numbers, Boom. So if you have those, but let's get back to your initial intent. What's funny is the last time I was on the show, I talked about Stadia,
right?
And everybody, that sucks. He's crazy. Who's this guy? Now Phil says Google's his competition. So which is it, folks? Is Stadia something? You just said Phil is the leader.
Well, I mean, listen,
he's not talking about the console Google has. They don't have a console.
I'll tell you this, Mooch. So, you never heard me say Google was trash. I'm saying that Google's just not for me.
Well, that's fine, but I didn't say you. I'm saying everyone. Everyone's
right now. There's like 8 people on.
There's 8. Well, they're in a pickle. They've been in the gaming business for 3 months. Let's give them a minute. You just got done telling us that Microsoft went through trials and tribulations from 2013 till yesterday. We gave them 7 years this generation. They've been in the console business since 2001. Google's been in business for 3 months. Everyone's like, boo that company. So what I'm trying to say, though, is it's the tale of two stories here. If we're going to sit here and say the future is the cloud, and we're going to say, and these are your words just from a moment ago, and the future is xCloud. Well, xCloud has to have a competitor. And that competitor, I can tell you, I have Stadia. I'm not saying you guys are to go get it. I'm not telling you that at all. But all I'm saying to you is the technology works. And the games are going to come. They're buying studios as well. They're just late to the party. Now, Phil himself said Amazon and Google are his competition, which I think by means of the broad big picture, he's right.
Right.
I think in the meantime, he's a little wrong because whatever you do, don't fall asleep on the Nintendos and the Sonys of the world because we don't know what they have up their sleeve. Nobody knows, right? So the thing about it is right now we just did a full hour segment on the boxes, right? So Sony, going in the next generation with a bit of a lead. And Boom, you made some great counterpoints. That may not or may take shape as we move in the next generation. But when Phil comes out and says Google and Amazon hasn't announced anything yet.
No, they haven't.
Right? So Google's got 3 months in the gaming pool. Amazon's got 0.0 days.
Hey, can I say something? I just want to interject. I'm sorry, but he's not even talking about any direct app, anything right now. What Phil is saying is Microsoft and Nintendo have not invested billions in their infrastructure in the cloud. That is what Phil is saying. He says they're out of place. His competitors in the future will be Google and Stadia. Why? Because of moolah, because of money. They've invested tons of money, just like Microsoft has in their servers. That's specifically what he is talking about. He's not saying that they're not going to compete with Sony on the local, brick and mortar, go and buy the console route. They're still going to be competing there. But listen, Sony's going to Microsoft for their Azure servers. That's what he's talking about. They're not set up. They could build it from the ground up, but have fun spending billions in multiple years like Microsoft, Amazon. You can rent servers from Amazon right now. It's a real thing. So that's what he's talking about specifically.
Yeah, Netflix does it.
Yeah. I'm just saying,
do it.
Yeah, you can take his words and misconstrue them. Bottom line
it's not misconstruing. It's just the fact that he's saying Amazon and Google are his future competitor. That's fine. That's completely fine. But what I'm talking about is the day-to-day operations of what we hear today, right? Everybody's booing and hissing at Stadia.
Because it sucks right now. Right now. I mean, they could drop it. That is absolutely true. But
Google has done this in the past, though.
So is Microsoft. How's Groove Music doing? How's Zoom?
No.
So what I'm saying to you is but the thing is, that's what I'm saying. You've got to do apples for apples. And it's like you can't be like Google drops things. Well, they all do.
Listen, Phil
Apple just dropped the AirPort Extreme, which I thought was one of their best products, and they dropped it. So, but my point being is that it's just what we're saying here is we've got to keep semi. It's a great discussion point, but we got to keep consistent. What I'm saying is when Phil's preaching that Google and Amazon's his competitor, okay, yes, the infrastructure. Of course, it's the infrastructure. But what is it? He's focusing in on a gaming related topic. He's talking about cloud streaming, right? So it's xCloud versus Stadia. And you know, you guys can say whatever you want. Xbox has got a leg up with xCloud because you got your games you bring with you. Yeah. But all Stadia has to do is the same thing that Nvidia did and make a deal with, you know, all these guys, Origin, etc., and have a gaming service. They could do that in like a flip of a switch. So they already have the infrastructure there. They can do that. So that's what I'm saying. But I find it funny that when Phil's like, "Hey, Google's my competition," everyone's like, "That's a good point." But when you go weeks back and we're talking about Stadia getting its feet wet and having a chance to come out, now they should have labeled it beta, etc. A lot of mistakes. I'm not defending it, but that's.
Yeah, Phil was asked about this in an interview, and he's not sitting there reading Twitter and like, oh, what are the YouTubers and Twitterverse saying? Oh, Stadia sucks. Well, let's scratch them off the competition list. Oh, now we're just down to Amazon. He's not. Well,
two things you said. I agree with what you just said at the end. But I mean, believe me, Phil is reading Twitter. But I'm saying but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
He's not scratching them off by no means.
To just count Google out because
that's my point. My point is that Phil is taking Google serious. I'm taking Google serious. Doesn't seem like many others are.
You know what?
Because their service sucks right now. It can be fixed, but
it's 3 months old.
You know what Phil did? That's genius. He switched the narrative to fit what's going on in the Xbox ecosystem right now. By him saying that Google and Amazon are their cloud competition, because he's not going to compete with Sony and Nintendo right now on hardware. That's just done, right? That's not going to be here or there. So by introducing this new narrative, he's literally taking a page from Sony's book.
Can I interrupt you there real quick? What do you mean he's not going to compete with them on hardware? We just got
doing
an hour segment where
I understand
Microsoft's price is going to be comparable.
He's not going to match them on the hardware sales. Okay, he's not going to.
Where were you last segment when I said that? Go ahead.
I just spoke last. I had to be quick. Mooch, come on. What you doing?
Come on, Cyber.
Hey, man.
I was going to make that point, Mooch. My point originally was going to be it doesn't freaking matter because you just got to look at what these companies are offering. That's all we know right now. And on one side, you have I want to get into it again. We just spent an hour on it, but yeah.
I think that's all he did. All he did is switch.
You know, Cyber. I actually let me actually get to you first, Cyber. Let me get to you first. Because I just want to read you a quote from Phil Spencer and I want you to respond on this because it's exactly what you just said. This is from Phil Spencer directly. He says this: Microsoft isn't interested in getting into a future console war with Nintendo and Sony. I don't want to be in a fight over format wars with those guys while Amazon and Google are focusing on how to get gaming into 7 billion people's hands around the world. Ultimately, that is our goal. Take it away, Cyber.
Yeah, well, which brings me to my previous point. He literally took a page from Sony's book. Sony's marketing is genius, right?
Yes, it is.
Genius, probably the best in the business. So all he did is he took a narrative which they're going forward with, and he goes, "Hey, those guys are doing their things. They already sold 100 million plus, consoles out there. They're gonna keep selling hardware. Our infrastructure right now is based on everything else. You're gonna be able to play your games anywhere. And that's why we have this cloud infrastructure. And the only other two companies that have the same level of infrastructure that we do in the cloud-based system is Amazon and Google, and that's it. And if you think about it, he is correct. Right now, like I'm in the xCloud.
So am I. It's amazing, dude.
It's amazing.
It's ridiculous.
It really works better. Like the first time you play on that thing, it's phenomenal. Right now, he knows that I think Sony and Nintendo they require they need those hardware sales. As in Microsoft, they have built or begin to build an ecosystem where right now they are on the hardware business, but that's an option for you. You know what I mean? Everything that they're going to do now is going to be based on their cloud. You're going to be able to play your games anywhere. You're going to have to be able to
see Cyber. That's where
Yeah.
I'm not. You got to do one for one. What you're saying is who cares about the console?
I didn't say that at all. I said the console is an option.
It's a serious option.
100%. I agree with you.
The leg up that we're talking about with
they show you how
xCloud.
serious the console.
But hear me out.
On the console with the Series X.
The leg up
They're
on
not giving you
xCloud,
something bad.
The leg up that xCloud has is due to the fact that we all bought their consoles and their games on those consoles. Otherwise, where is this information? Like, if you're not a console gamer, you think people are just going to be like, "Oh, xCloud, I've never played a video game before."
That's exactly the point.
Well, they're not advertising it anywhere
because it's a beta.
Yeah,
well, that's what I'm trying to say. But I mean, it's like that. That's. I mean,
you cannot.
You got to have the console. The console is still doing a lot of the selling for them.
Yes, that
100%.
But the seeds are being laid down. You have to understand right now. I mean, think about this for a second. They're giving you 90 games to play for free if you get into this, and they've just opened it up in more places. People are playing it in territories that have never been Xbox faithful territories, in territories that just traditionally Xbox is not being sold. But because this beta is out there, people are getting used to the Xbox ecosystem. Yes. Right now in all of these countries, especially some place like in China, for instance, where this has been from one of the first territories, you would never sell an Xbox there.
Which all I'm saying is Phil Spencer knows that when it comes to selling consoles and hardware, Sony and Nintendo are always going to beat them. So what he did
and
here,
that is a huge mind share right there, Cyber.
But all he did is he flipped the narrative to say, hey, we don't care about the hardware.
He can flip it any way he wants. Like the proof's in the pudding. Well, so it's gonna, you know what I mean? That's true. And we're talking about his comments. You're right, Cyber. That's what he flipped, which I don't blame him, because that's the avenue of attack Microsoft has to do right now. That's the avenue they need to triumphant.
But we all know here too that hardware really does not matter for these companies. What matters is the software sales. They want you to buy the
but don't forget, you're 100% correct there. But the hardware is a 1-for-1 with the software.
Yeah, I completely agree.
You do have to understand that
they're losing money for the first, like I mentioned before, they're going to be losing money for the first X amount of number of
depends on what they put. It depends the price. Here's the thing, Cyber. Again, we have to it depends on the price. If the X, let's just say the Series X is $599, they're not going to lose money on that console. Okay. So if they drop it to $499 or $399 or something wild, then what you say holds water. We don't know, you know, and
that's why it comes to my point to Sony as well, because if they're going to match Microsoft at $499, then they're safe. But if they go to $399,
right. I'm right there with you. But
I've always stated Sony's biggest issue coming to the PS5, and I think I said it on the podcast before, is transitioning their 109 million customers to the PS5.
Here's the thing,
because there's still people buying PS4s.
You got Damian Percival in the chat. He says Mooch is a dinosaur. Listen, that doesn't make any sense. Hear me out for a second. We just spent the first hour of this show having a great debate on what? The consoles.
Hardware.
Okay, so let's not listen. We can't just say the future is coming. Okay, so when you see all these car shows in Detroit in the next year, do we go to those car shows and go, boo? Where are the flying cars that are coming eventually? I know there's going to be one in 100 years. Of course, I realize that cloud gaming is going to take over, but we aren't there right now. Cloud gaming for Xbox, Google, and Amazon. I'll even give Amazon credit, even though they're not officially haven't thrown their hat in the ring yet. Okay, that's a viable option for gaming on the go right now. Eventually, everybody on the panel is correct. Everybody in the chat is correct. That type of gaming will replace consoles. But here we are asking how much the console is going to be, how many teraflops, which one's a little bit more powerful in one discussion. And then in the very next minute, we're like, Don't worry about the console.
Yeah, but we're
talking
only
about the cloud.
15% of the market, Mooch.
I think you're missing my point. I'm not saying consoles
saying just
is
you.
important.
I'm saying
oh yeah, no, I
in
understand.
general. This is a
Yeah,
generality again. I'm just trying to say, like, no, not you, Cyber. I'm saying, like, you know, one conversation we're having, we're talking about how important it is for Sony to tell us the facts. We need to know what's going on. We need to know right now. And then we're like, on the very split second later, we're like, well, it's all about the cloud anyway, so hardware really doesn't matter.
No, but again, we have to equate that. If you want to be generous, if you want to go crazy and really kind of let your hair down after a night of drinking and say that it's 20, that we equate to 20% of the market, the hardcore, right? The hardcore of any, I don't care what flag you fly. I don't care if you fly all three or you have a particular brand, 20%, and that's a high number. There's still 80% of the market that are the casual market. The casual gamers.
Casual gamer, boom, goes out and buys one console and buys 1 or 2 games a year. So even that 80%, now you're talking about one other hardcore guy in the 20% category who's Noof. I'm not even going to put Noof on the spot. You know how many consoles Noof's bought this generation?
Ton of them. Yeah.
You guys don't realize it, but Noof is on his way. He's got a full-fledged flight right out to Redmond. He's going to have Thanksgiving this year with the man himself, Phil Spencer. Listen, my point being here is that the hardcore are the ones that buy consistently. So we're not going to do the 80-20 split and do the mathematics here because I see where you're going with that, Boom. But the hardcore are what kind of, because the hardcore are the ones that run out day one and go buy them. I believe it was Phil, correct me if I'm wrong here. It was Moore, I believe. What's his name there? The gentleman who ran Xbox before.
Phil Harrison?
Donnie. No. Moore.
Peter Moore.
Peter
Moore. Yeah.
I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. You guys are great with quotes, but I believe he said the first to 10 million wins the generation.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I think he actually Peter might have said that.
If it wasn't Peter, correct me, guys. I'll stand corrected. But whoever said it, didn't matter what side of the coin you're on. That was a great line. And my point being is when the hardcore go out there and literally just rush to buy those consoles and you get to that 10 million mark, or if you don't believe it, 8 million or 12 million, whatever. Okay. That's that driving point. And then what that does is it starts to steer the ship. Okay. And Sony this generation, let's be honest, and Forte said it. You guys got to really listen to Forte. You know, I don't just give him credit. I truly pay attention. This year for Xbox. Yes, we have Ori. Okay. But after Ori, okay, and I'm not talking about next generation games. We have Ori. After Ori, it kind of really, really fizzles out. But you got PlayStation that has, which is probably, this is the craziest thing, right? And everyone has said that God of War is game of the generation. It's a game of the ages, right? And then everything else came out. Oh my God, it's amazing, right? We haven't even gotten to their most amazing game yet. That's
right.
Hard, right?
Oh yeah.
You have to sit down, take a deep breath and go, holy shit, the best game of this generation, more than likely, if you're a betting man, hasn't even come out yet. The Last of Us 2. And then you've got
obviously, but you also have Halo 4. Halo 5. Infinite coming out.
That's next generation.
I'm not really.
Yes, it is.
Cyberpunk 2077. Come on.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about first party.
Oh, gotcha.
But I'm saying you have, and then you have a wild card in Ghost of Tsushima, and like that could be great. It could flop. Who knows, right? Nobody knows. Nobody's played a Ghost game before. We don't know, but it's a hell of a wild card. So what I'm trying to say to you, Boo, is not only do you have the 109 million, then you're going. You know, they say we're coming in hot. Or here, let me back my microphone off for some of those that aren't used to Mooch yelling. We're coming in hot. All right. They're going to be coming in with no brakes and a lot of coal in that locomotive. So they're going to be running right through into next generation. And then Noof Nukem made a good point. Everybody on the panel has made some amazing points. Noof said he may go PS5 first for the sole reason that the PS5 has come out and said they're going to show exclusive power games on the PS5 that the PS4 can't play. And a lot of people go, you know what? If I'm going to go home day one and plug in a new box, I want to play something, because you said Halo Infinite, right, Boom? So here's where Boom's right. I could play Halo Infinite on my PC or on my Xbox One X or my Xbox One S. Okay, so Microsoft's not going to be going into November like a non-stoppable locomotive. Okay, it's actually going to be going in there like a trolley car. So, you know,
Yeah, but you can't
know?
say that because again, you have to remember, you say going into November. Think about this for a second. Again, this is this is a little bit off kilter, but when you talk about price and power, right? And again, I know this is a little bit going back to what we talked about. When you go to buy your Xbox Series X, right? Normally, traditionally, a guy like myself would have the money for the console. Usually the console's paid for months and months in advance.
Yep.
And I buy every I buy every launch title. Every launch title from now to Christ, since the Super NES, I bought everything. And I've gone out of my way to save up money, deliver papers, sell myself on the corner like a hooker. It didn't matter. I was getting all the games, right?
Yep.
This one, but what's different about this generation and why it's going to matter, you say, and why Microsoft is going to have no breaks as well, is because you're going to go pick up your console and go home and download a dozen games for free. Because what we're hearing is it's either going to be we've heard on the 4chan forums, a 3-month pass of Xbox Game Pass in every box that they sell. You can't argue that is not going to be an unstoppable force as opposed to Sony's box, which could potentially still be.
Boom, you're telling me that somebody's going to make a conscious decision of paying $500 at the counter because they can go home and get a 3-month pass to
I'm saying that it's the most
Pass?
powerful console.
That's not what you just sold.
What? How did I
you
not
just
sell
sold
that?
it as Game Pass.
I said you're buying your 500. I don't have to sell it as it being the most powerful. We know
you
it's the
should be
most
selling
powerful.
it with the power, the specs, and Halo.
Sony going into this generation lubed up with the KY jelly. Microsoft's coming in like a hot dog wrapped up with a friggin' roll of sandpaper because they are rubbing everybody the wrong way.
That's great.
So,
I mean, I see where you're coming from, Boom. I really do. And don't get me wrong. I hope you're right. I really do. I think that at this point in time, you're going to be coming into a situation where, and I saw a couple of people in the chat. Listen, if you guys don't like The Last of Us as much as I do, I completely hear you. I'm not trying to tell you.
Well, it's not for everyone. I'm looking forward to that game.
It's not for everyone, but it already, just for you guys that go, it's not all that. It broke pre-record orders for video games. I mean,
look,
right? I mean, come on, Forte, tell me.
Last of Us is going to be fuego.
Man, people are like, when that game releases, you're talking about a news. You think the media is biased now? Wait till that game releases and wait till you see the hype that's going to be surrounding that game. And the funny thing is, it comes out right before E3. Microsoft's going to go on stage and talk about all the stuff that they're doing with their system. Then Sony they're going to probably wait till the end of June. They'll release the numbers on how Last of Us did, and then they're going to probably drop the price and everything of the PS5 and say, guess what? You can play it on the PS5.
I mean, maybe. Yeah. I mean, listen.
I just think, and this is another thing I think other people don't think about. I think about the little nuances with these system things. What happens? Which one do you think of these systems is going to release first? Because that's
a good question.
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Hey, boys, let me put it in perspective for you where Microsoft is coming from. Look, a couple of years ago, right? Netflix kind of had everything to themselves, didn't they? They were pretty much the market dominant. And they didn't look into the future. They didn't look into the crystal ball quite well enough because guess what happened? Well, Disney comes along. You got Apple TV now. You got 101 of these services now competing for that same dollar. Not everybody's going to go out and buy each and every one of them. They'd like you to, but it ain't happening. So Microsoft is looking at that boat, knowing that if they don't get ahead of the curve, they're going to be behind the curve, baby. You're going to be like watching the fastball coming in, and it's going to be in the catcher's mitt, and there ain't no catching up to that. So that's really what's going on here. Is they ain't taking Sony lightly. They're not counting them out. Sony's there with a powerful console. They're going to sell. That's the thing. And that's the thing. Microsoft knows that right out the gate, they're going to be a market leader. They're going to come in strong no matter what their launch lineup is, no matter where the price or the power is, because they are the market leader. They're in more territories, and Sony is very focused, at least to this point, on their console sales. But Microsoft, they got to go after the dollars that are still lying on the table. They know that, like right now, there's a better guarantee that most people are going to buy Game Pass than they're going to buy a $600 console. That's a safe bet, right? That you don't need to have the console to play a Microsoft game anymore. It's important. It's important to us guys. guys. Us guys talking here, we're buying that console. We've already said it. We're getting it.
Right.
But most people are not going to get it. They're going to find other ways. And I guarantee you, in the next 10 years, you can mark my words. I'm saying it on this podcast that Xbox Live, Xbox Game Pass, every other freaking type of thing is going to be built into your television set. They're going to come with freaking Xbox controllers, and you're going to be able to play them right out of the box. You will not need hardware at all. Basically, they're jumping on the Google bandwagon. Google's kind of ahead of the curve right now. They're just not doing it well enough, but they will get there if they stay with it. Now, if Google deviates from their plot, they're going to burn themselves. They got to stay fast. They got to stop burning their people that are making their games, and they got to get software to convince you to come over there to it. But they are watching Netflix. They're watching that model. They're watching the subscriptions are taking over the freaking universe. They've killed cable television. They've killed everything else. They will kill consoles too if eventually there's always going to be consoles. There's going to be that little nip in the market. It's like Dairy Queen, man. Like Dairy Queen. When I was growing up as a kid, it was all about ice cream and going in and getting that custard cone. You know what I mean? But you know what? Eventually, they started promoting burgers. Why? Because if they didn't promote the hamburgers, they weren't going to get enough people in the store, especially in the winter months when it's hard to sell ice cream. You got to have variety. You got to have options. All the consoles are at this point in time, whether we like it or not, are freaking options. That's all they are. It's just options. They're options for people that want them. If you don't want them, they're going to say go to a PC, go to a phone, go to your TV, go to your grandma's house and download it on a maxi pad. I'm telling you, this is what's happened, guys. There's no use in complaining. Just like old fossil ass hear me. I got to get with the times or I got to get behind them. It's one of the two. You either get out of the train tracks or you get hit by it and run over. Well, I'm still standing in the tracks, but I'm getting flattened pretty quick here. I can already feel my toes busting underneath the pressure. I'm going to have to come around. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. People got to realize that I'm jumping on the old Mooch train here because he is speaking some truth here.
He is.
He's looking ahead of the curve. I'm going to buy my Xbox until the day they no longer make a freaking Xbox, but that's what's happening right now. They're following that model, that subscription model that Netflix started to lead. And look what Netflix is doing. They're struggling to catch up. That's why they're making like 101 television shows, because now they don't even have the Disney content. It went over to Disney. And guess what? There's going to be more movies following suit. If people like Disney keep buying Fox and they buy, who's the next guy that Disney's going to suck up until eventually we're all forced to buy Disney because they're going to own everybody.
They're buying Sony next. No, I'm just kidding. Don't get
what happened to Blockbuster. Crazy. Everybody remember Blockbuster? Yeah.
Oh my God! Well, listen, real quick. Let me. I want to just grab. You want to add something to this?
No. Go ahead and do what you're gonna do first.
Okay. I have to catch up on these super chats, man. I mean, and again, this is my fault because I feel like I'm running in molasses. So if the show isn't as snappy as it used to be, it's folks. I'm dragging here, but let me just catch up on some of the super chats because the generosity is unbelievable. LMNOP drops another $10 super chat, dude. Thank you so much for that. He says Sony expects you to spend an extra $100 for a game or two at launch, adding up to the 500 or 600. Xbox will be selling Game Pass with its killer app for $15. That's a bargain. Okay, let me just continue. It says Adra. I'm going to butcher them. I'm so sorry. It's ARDHIM. Drops a $2 super chat. He says Stadia is great. Cannot play on my phone, Mooch. Yeah, I mean that's one of the biggest problems with that. You unless you have a Google phone, you can't play it. And Valerian drops a $5 super chat. He said Xbox has made what they will to compete in the console market. Now they are working on streaming future multi-end strategy. Yes, that is very true. I mean, they definitely want the dollar from everywhere. There's no doubt about that. And Emmanuel A. just lost it. My goodness. I'm sorry about that. Emmanuel A drops a $3 super chat. He says, more yelling and Xbox support. Please, Mooch. And then X Burke drops a $5 super chat. Thank you so much for being here, Burke. He says, I've been beta testing xCloud. Remember, you will have a choice not to buy a console and have hundreds of games instantly. Massive potential. Yes, that is very true. And Michelle Alexandria drops a $2 super chat. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate the generosity. And our good friend Gaming from Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, Enrique says, hardware is great. New services are great, but content is king. If you don't have exclusive quality content, the rest means nothing. And I think, well, see, I agree with you. And I think that's the difference this generation with Microsoft is that they have 15, now potentially 16, because I reported on the leak that was sent to me that Asobo is now a part of the Microsoft Xbox Game Pass Studios. I can't confirm it, but the calendar clearly says one next to the other. So I'm going to say that, yes, maybe it's an announcement that was put out there, maybe a controlled leak that our good friend Aaron Greenberg put out there. So we'll see about that. But before I get over to Temper Sun, Gaming Forte, did you want to add something to this?
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing is when we talk about like what Phil Spencer was talking about and what's going to happen between the narrative between these two systems, it's really just going to come down to, like Enrique just said, the games and everything and nothing else in between. Microsoft, the one thing I love about and this is what got me to want to buy the next Xbox, because I have been very, very vocal about there's no reason for me to buy an Xbox if I have a PC. I have an Xbox One X. I can log into that and still play all the same games, so it doesn't matter. If I want to play at a higher fidelity, I'll play on my PC. But what changed for me was the attitude that Microsoft started having.
The swagger, right?
The swagger finally came back. And the fact that they started speaking in the way that I wanted them to actually talk. It was more of, when I look at Microsoft now, I say, okay, they finally get it. And then they're speaking to the side of the company that matters the most, which is services. And that's what Microsoft's core competency is. A service-based company that basically ties everything together. Microsoft's whole goal back in 2001 wasn't to just be the best console, was to be the middle of your living room. And they kind of achieved that to an extent. Now they're trying to move forward and say, we're going to do something else. It's nothing wrong with saying that another company is a little bit better than you at what you're doing when it comes to hardware stuff. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that, because guess what? Microsoft sold 50 million systems this generation. That's to people, that's bad. That's not bad. Literally, during the worst generation you ever had, you sold 50 million systems. The PlayStation just sold astronomically better, and that's the only difference. But what it really comes back to is they're playing in a playpen that they are comfortable in. Sony wants to play in the console space when it comes to hardware sold and everything else, and that's what's going to push.
That's why them and Nintendo are very traditional like that.
They're very traditional. Microsoft is thinking outside the box. Google and Amazon. Yes, right now they're not a threat, but don't think for a second that this isn't something that's being foreshadowed, especially at the top of Microsoft. When Phil Spencer talks about this stuff, when he was talking in that interview, he wasn't talking as the head of Xbox. He was talking as the person that was speaking the language of what Microsoft's core competency is with the system. Mm-hmm. For Xbox, we wanted to be part of a cloud network. We wanted to be where you could play those games anywhere you want. And what other platforms have the potential to give that to you? Sony and Nintendo are light years behind on that situation. They're nowhere near. That's why Sony went to Microsoft to start the Azure, get part of the Azure cloud network and stuff.
Nintendo don't have voice chat, bro. You gotta use the phone.
Nintendo don't have. And the one thing people got to remember, Microsoft is an industry leader when it comes to stuff like this. They were the first system to say, we're going to put a Ethernet cable on the side of your system, and you got to have broadband. And guess what? It worked. It pushed internet capability on the systems further. They were the first ones that said, we're going to make you pay for an online subscription service on your console. And guess what? 8 years later, Sony said in a press conference, guess what? This is how you share games, and you got to play for PlayStation Plus. Why? Because it worked. And guess what happened in 2018? Nintendo opened Nintendo Online. This isn't something just basically to snuff at. Microsoft is thinking of the future, and the rest of these systems sooner or later will follow suit. The only difference is, as of right now, they don't have to. but they should be paying a hell of a lot more attention than they are right now, because ultimately it's going to change. And if they don't get it together and figure out exactly what they're going to do in these other mediums, I think Sony's a little bit more equipped because they do have PlayStation Now, and they do have the partnership with Microsoft when it comes to the servers and stuff.
Mhm.
But and Nintendo, man, when it comes to Nintendo, kids were born every day. They got a theme park with their characters in it. So yep. Nintendo's going to be fine no matter what. They're just the outlier. It's mostly Sony is going to be the one that's going to change more than anything. And Microsoft does see them as a competitor. I just don't think they see them as a competitor in the space that they're trying to compete in anymore, which is the cloud. And that's the most important thing to Microsoft, because that's a core competency for them.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why Sony is now paying to use Microsoft's Azure servers, right? I mean, they recognize that they're out of position and they have no choice, and Microsoft is actually getting paid from Sony. So, I mean, this is what we're all talking about. But real quick, Tempest Son, I want to get your opinion on this.
Mm-hmm.
There are detractors within the industry that will not publicly admit Microsoft is currently on an upswing, and that there's been a huge change in attitude. And that attitude came right out in this interview that we opened up this topic with, and that Microsoft and Phil Spencer know that they're much better prepared as a company, but more importantly, Xbox is prepared for the next generation. And this is the raw and cutthroat Phil Spencer I always knew was there. I mean, Forte, who just blew it out of the water with his statement. What did you lead? What did you lead with, Forte? The change in attitude, right? We talked about the swagger. What are your thoughts on him saying what he said about Sony and Nintendo, and do you agree with it? And also, I want you to comment on the swagger that he is now showing the world.
Okay, just before I get to my point, I got to say I'm sitting here with my headphones on. Mooch is doing his bit here, and I literally hear my wife behind me with my headphones on, noise-canceling headphones. She says, "Who's yelling?"
That might be the best plug ever. I gotta have you say that again on the Crossfire, buddy. That was awesome.
Oh, I will. So, anyways, what do I think about it? I mean, it's fantastic. I think one thing that people don't do is they hear Phil Spencer, but they aren't listening to the guy. He says exactly what he means. This is such an off-topic quote, but listen. Back when they announced they were making the initiative, if you listen to the words that man was saying, he was telling you way back then that the initiative is probably being built to make a Perfect Dark reboot. Just if you listen to the words he was saying. So when he's sitting here and saying these things, I just think he has the balls, he has the money, he has the say from Microsoft. He's telling you, what their plans are. And when he says these things, I mean, everything that Mooch was saying about Stadia, everybody says it sucks, all that stuff. He's literally saying he's in a place where these are going to be the competitors. I mean, this is the topic, right? What he said in this quote here. So you just got to look at it at literally face value, what he's saying. The guy knows his stuff. Listen, Sony did sign to use Azure servers. Nintendo has to do something, because right now they're looking awfully like 2001 or before that, dude. It's pathetic at this point. I know they're selling a lot, but at the end of the day, man, listen, they're doing something right. They're on the downswing because next generation is coming, so they're selling less and less consoles. Nintendo just had the best year ever. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, I own 16 Switches. It's so great. I can play on the hopper here, play on the hopper there. It's fantastic." Nintendo made this last fiscal quarter or whatever, they made 10 billion. Microsoft made 10 billion. Sony made 12. And everybody has these narratives about Microsoft has no games, they have no this, they have no that. They're doing something right. I mean, come on, people. Sony is going to be releasing games on PC natively. Okay. They just see the money that Microsoft is making. And for the companies, for all three of these companies, that's what it's about. All right. You could say, oh, they're making games for us out of the goodness of their hearts. No, it's a business. They're in it to make money. And I guarantee you, if they had their choice, would they rather potentially lose a few dollars on you buying their console and then buying games? Or would they rather you just log into xCloud, sign up to their service and then buy their games, they'd probably rather have that. So, I mean, it might sound like a bad thing, but listen, they're giving us the option of the console. It is just an option, and a fantastic option at that, but it is an option. So I don't know, man. They know exactly what they're doing. I mean, this is a gaming like subdivision or whatever of probably the richest company on the planet, or in the top 3 of the planet. So Phil's got this stuff on lockdown. He does have a swagger. And from now on, I'm just going to listen to the guy, because he is, what he tells you is what's going to happen, especially now that it has the right seat of Satya Nadella. I mean, pretty much what he says is going to go. There's no more of this, we can't show games unless it's 18 months out, blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff, I'm sure a few years ago,
they're going to be showing stuff at every event.
Exactly. So this man knows what he's doing. And bottom line is, with both of these topics we just went through for, an hour and 40 minutes, listen, worry about what the providers are doing for you and what you want. Do you want the service that just keeps on giving and Game Pass? Great. Play it on your PC, play it on your phone. Who cares? Play it on the new console, the most powerful console, the soon to be more powerful than the Xbox One X, but not as powerful, Series S. Who cares? If you just want good, first or third person over the shoulder, exclusives and Sony, get the console. I just, instead of worrying about which console is going to do better, I think it's kind of obvious Sony's going to sell more. They almost have to by default. They're in more territories. If you look at just the console thing, like, I don't think Microsoft has a hope for consoles in Japan. Just don't think it's going to happen.
No, I think
xCloud,
consoles don't. That is non-existent in Japan now.
Exactly.
But everybody in Japan mostly has a cell phone, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
they sure do.
Exactly. So listen, they are going about this the right way. And you know what? If they make a ton of money putting games on cell phones or whatever, it's better for us, because they're probably buying a Sobo. They're probably not going to stop there. I mean, it's just more games. The more people subscribing to their service, the more games we're going to get. Bottom line. So
it's a win for everybody. Well, listen, this has been an outstanding, hour and 41 minutes of this particular show. Mooch, you're going to be very happy about the next particular topic, as you can read. One of our favorite pastimes, I think Mooch will agree, is horror. When you talk about horror, it's easy to talk about this subject right here, Resident Evil. Now, this particular, and I know Tempest Sun is going to be reeling to jump into this topic.
Yeah.
Obviously, Capcom, for me anyway, and for a lot of people in this chat and on this panel, will be considered by most as the comeback company of the decade. And there is no shortage of Resident Evil rumors, thanks to a story that I pulled from a really cool website called RelyOnHorror.com. And Resident Evil 8 will apparently have zombies, witches, and wolf-like creatures that have been compared to werewolves. Oh my. Now, in the article, it highly implies to take this with a huge grain of salt. But the information does come from a combination of a German gaming outlet called Games.de and previous Resident Evil leaker source, a leaker by the name of Chaotic Claire over on Twitter. Now, Chaotic Claire confirmed many of the things that the aesthetic gamer, who has in the past broken huge Resident Evil leaks way before anyone else was talking about them. And thanks to her undeniable and relentless sleuthing skills, here is what came out of the German YouTube video that revealed a ton of incredible stuff. So I'm going to break it down exactly what was leaked, and then I'm going to go into the panel and I'll start with Mooch. This is what it had to say. The rumor that the game had been scrapped and development started over several times is completely wrong. They're currently working on Resident Evil 8, and that has not stopped. Discussions about the logo design and if the game is an 8 in the title are useless at this point, since things can change a lot. The release for this may be in the next 1.5 to 2 years. And it looks as if it's going to be releasing in mid or holiday of 2021. The setting is Eastern Europe or adjacent country to that area. It's going to be in a village-like setting with a snowy landscape, a castle in the background, but smaller than the one from Resident Evil 4. It's going to have some medieval setting and enemy designs, not actual werewolves, but wolf-like BOW. So I'm assuming that they're going to be maybe a different take on the hunters. It'd be nice to actually see some new Resident Evil creatures, make the rounds in a new game. One or more of the witches will be hunting Ethan throughout the entire game, very similar to Mr. X, as well as the Nemesis in the remake that comes out in April. And even though it sounds like the Hookman from Resident Evil 3.5, it's something new. Zombies are wearing knight armor and welding swords, which is a little weird. More action heavy than 7, closer to the DLC with Chris Redfield called Not a Hero, which was pretty good. And the director has been with Capcom for a while and didn't change or leave as it was originally reported. The director was previously behind the scenes as an executive producer who directed one game. And this is where it gets interesting. Maybe you can find out who it is, but Chris will in fact be returning with a twist. And the last part of this leak is no spoilers here, but a hint in the video's outro, and I obviously don't know German, so I was reading exactly what it said. It says, no, it can't be. Why you? So I don't know who they're running into. Is it Wesker back from the dead? I don't know. Mooch, listen to me. You and I gave Resident Evil 7 glowing marks.
Absolutely.
In 2017 as our game of the year.
Yes.
Resident Evil 2, at least for me, in 2019 was my game of the year, simply because there were a lot of great games, but no one did it better. I beat that game. I'm playing through it, I think, a 6th time right now, and I'm going to probably play through another dozen times because it's just an amazing experience.
That's awesome.
When you hear all of this goodness, first of all, Ethan from Resident Evil 7 is coming back, and that's a big deal.
Love it.
Yes, because obviously it would be really crummy to experience Ethan like that, who has nothing to do with stars, and just be the regular Joe looking for his wife not to come back. So the fact that he's now going to be a part of the mainstay Resident Evil excites me. But when you hear that we could be revisiting somewhere like the territory of Resident Evil 4, which was amazing, snowy mountains, older settings, we're talking about possibly zombies that are going to be back from the dead wearing knight's armor.
Yes.
Now you're going to have to get tricky on how you kill them. Does any of this excite you for Resident Evil 8?
It's through the roof, and I'll tell you. So just recently, Boom's right. I don't know if you guys were ever listening back in the day, but 2017 Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, that was my game of the year, as well as Boom. And just as a matter of fact, I'm actually playing through it again on PlayStation 4 right now. I wanted to get. I'm like, I might as well. I'm not a trophy hunter by no means. But I'm like, I wanted to play the game again.
I beat it 4 times on both.
So you got me beat. I beat it twice, I believe, on Xbox. And I'm like, let me get one in before the generation. So I'm kind of just dabbling with that. But everything you said there, Boom, like if you're a Resident Evil fan, like it's just literally that was music and harmony to your ears. Everything that you kind of want to get a little bit out of Resident Evil 4. I like that they keep Ethan in there exactly with what you said. It's another main protagonist in the RE world that's not Chris, you know what I mean? It's not
or
Leon,
Leon,
Jill or Leon and
right.
Claire, right? So it's like, okay, let's get this new character and believe it or not, I'm not gonna do a spoiler for anybody, but the Ethan character really, it's true. And Boom, tell me if I'm wrong. The Ethan character really doesn't really open up, and you don't really get
doesn't add much to the game. It
really doesn't, right? And at the very end, there's a bit where you're like, okay. Now I kind of feel the trials and tribulations this guy went through. But yeah, you're right. It wasn't there. But the fact that it was there at the end, thank God they're going to continue with it. Why drop that right there? So And then you say the different, of course, the different enemy types, the different environment, definitely bringing weather. And, some people, these are things we used to talk about ages ago, Boom, right? Like bringing weather into a game, which may not be a big deal to new gamers these days. To us that have been playing games for such a long time, it's nice when you leave the precinct or you leave, you know what I mean? You leave the urban city environment that's just everything is so static, or you leave the creepy mansion. It's like, finally, we're going into that. That's what made Resident Evil set itself apart from the others. And, Resident Evil 5 did that to a certain extent, too. So, I mean, kudos there. But, I mean, Boom. I hope everything you read is factual. I hope everything
let me
is.
Just add to this. They're keeping it at first person. Perspective. They're not changing that. A lot of people were hoping they would go back after the success of Resident Evil 2. And I'm going to tell you exactly, this comes directly from one of the Capcom executive producers.
Yes.
They are taking the classic Resident Evil games and bringing those in third person to the fans that never played it and the fans like us who have been asking for it. But moving forward, at least with Resident Evil current, 8 is going to retain its first-person roots. And I got to be honest with you, I was a big detractor at first.
Me too.
Being the biggest Resident Evil guy, I was like, man, I don't know. And you play that, and the one thing about 7, Mooch, and you'll agree, is that they got the feeling of playing a Resident Evil game and the feel of it in first person.
Not just that, Boom, but I think what you're alluding to there, and I'm with you. I was not a fan when I first read about it either when 7 was being announced. But the thing that they nailed, there's nothing. Resident Evil's always been about inventory management and I want to say jump scares to the nth degree, right? Unexpected jump scares. And to have the way that they created the environment in the playthrough with Ethan in Resident Evil 7, the jump scares were just magnified. And if you don't believe me, I did try it once.
On VR.
I don't think I did it. I tried once in VR and I'm like, yo, this is really, really great. And get this shit off my face. No way. Right? No way. I'm not doing that. That is creepy as hell. So I will say this much. I mean, it's creepy enough when you're 12 feet away from your TV. So my point being here is, though, that's the thing, Boom. So when you say you played it through in first person, I got to say it brought the Resident Evil environment even more to fruition or more to life by making it first person. That doesn't mean that I would be against if they came out with a third person game again in the future, but I'm totally cool with at least the next playthrough in Resident Evil 8 being a first person. I'm definitely on board with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I agree. I hope that a lot of it does come true. But like I said, the reason why there's some validity to this is simply because the aesthetic gamer is notorious for getting these. I mean, he's been spot on with almost all of his Resident Evil leaks. And now that you have these different places converging and getting information, putting it all together, this could very well be true. It is definitely going to be interesting. Tempest Son, I want to go to you next on this because you are as big a Resident Evil fan as both Mooch and I. And when you hear all of this, first of all, the fact that Ethan's coming back, the fact that we're going to be visiting somewhere in Eastern Europe, which I think is a great setting for Resident Evil. I mean, who's to say that we can't even at some point, even it's a DLC or whether he's even made a mention of it, where we can go harken back to Resident Evil 4, where, we could be in a town adjacent to that. Who knows? But the fact that we're going to be in snowy mountains is something different. Again, it's something, from the just the inside of an asylum or the inside of a house or a precinct. You're going to be again, like Mooch was saying, weather could play a tremendous part. You could be fighting zombies in a blizzard. You don't know, right?
Yeah.
Are you excited from what you heard? And are you disappointed or excited that they're keeping with the roots of Resident Evil 7, making this a true sequel for 8 and keeping it in first person?
I'm a lot of the stuff in the list here excites me. Snowy landscape, you almost already got me.
Yep.
I'm such a sucker for snowy landscapes and things like that. I'm really split. Oh, the other thing too is saying Chris will return. Chris Redfield's my boy. That's just all there is to it. I love that guy. I I love
Chris is up there.
Redfield.
He is up there. Yeah.
Oh God, I love Chris Redfield. He's awesome, dude. So I mean, that man punched like a 10,000 pound boulder out of the way to save his partner. Come on, bro. I mean, he's awesome. So I'm happy about that. It says with a twist. I hope he's not like bad or something like that. That pissed me off. But I'm a little split on the first person. The reason why I think Ethan brought nothing to the game, it felt like, because it's in first person. You don't get what his expressions are like. You don't see the horror on his face. You don't see how well or not well he's taking his situation. I would miss the cutscenes. I would miss that flavor you get from the Capcom Resident Evil games. I mean, I think that's even the old ones that were like practically, blocks walking around. They just didn't have the greatest of the graphics. Even with some of the bad voice acting, you grow to like those characters. You can see them, identify with them, see what they're wearing. They are characters. You grow to love them, and especially in this new RE engine, it's almost a shame, like a crying shame, to not see Ethan's character model. It's like kind of sucky, So I don't know. I'm split on it. It was a really, really, really cool departure. But like the most memorable thing about it was definitely the father. Can't remember his name, but the dad of the family. Yeah. Every scene he was in, obviously, like it stole the show.
Well, he's laughing at you as he's on fire. I mean,
I know it's crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, he was the most memorable part about it. And it wasn't just, Mooch is absolutely right. That game is not just cheap jump scares. It is constant dread and almost agony playing the dang thing. And then there is jump scares because it's so high tension, So it is a fantastic game. No doubt about it. It actually did feel like Resident Evil, even though it's first person. The mechanics were pretty sound. To me, it's just not the same. I really liked 7, but when I played Resident Evil 2 Remake, I about died. I loved it so much.
You look on the screen and you see Jill here. Resident Evil 3 Remake is going to be a masterpiece, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I mean, that's exactly what you might lose too. Like you might see the other characters. Excuse me. I see the other characters in the first person view, but to me, you can't connect the same way. Like I always had a hard problem connecting with Gordon Freeman because the guy doesn't make a sound, even when he's getting stabbed by aliens. The dude's like silent. So, I mean, to me, it's always hard to connect to him. A lot of people love those games. I love them too, but it's just different in the first person. At least when I think of Cyberpunk 2077, it's first person, but they said you're going to be able to see the character you made in cutscenes, right? So I don't know if they go the full first person route. I'm a little like, but I think it's still going to be a good game. And the Knights in Armor part, it's a little weird, but that's cool. I like weird. Resident Evil is not a sane game. They never have been. They have been as weird as they get. So, I'm all for it though.
All right. Well, listen, great point. Hey, Nuv, listen, you have a show starting very soon, so I want to make sure that we get people over to your channel to check it out.
No, I've moved it over to Tuesday nights.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right. I wasn't sure. All right. Well, listen, let me get to you anyway, because first of all, Sovereign Cognito drops a $5 super chat, and he says this: I got a question for Arnie Schwartz. What do you think? This is a good one. Get ready. What do you think Xbox needs to win next generation? And Primal Eve wants to know if you have a bigger blank than Phil.
So is he asking Arnie? Does Arnie get a
asking Arnie if he has a bigger thing than Phil Spencer?
First of all, you know what? I've got to come out here and I've got to be honest with you. I do not have a bigger blank than Phil Spencer because he's got the power of Microsoft and Satya Nadella. So Phil Spencer has the biggest blank check I've ever seen in my life. He can just sign the digits on there and everybody's happy. So did I answer your question? Just go out there and watch the Terminator movies and I'll come back to kick your ass a later time. It was great. Awesome. Be here.
Well, thank you very much, Arnold. Always appreciate your time. Now, Noof, I want to get to you because I don't know exactly what your affection is for the Resident Evil franchise. Did you play Resident Evil 2? Are you going to play Resident Evil 3 in 2 months? And more importantly, with the subject at hand, are you excited to see what they do with Resident Evil 8 remaining in first person, but moving to a new setting?
Well, bro, that was a lot. There was a lot of questions.
That's a lot of questions.
First of all, that girl in the screen capture, is it just me, or unless one of you guys said it, but she looks just like Mila Jovovich?
You know what? I didn't really actually get that, but
Look
I
while
think-
on your YouTube channel, look at it. She looks like she's modeled from Mila Jovovich, especially in the first Resident Evil
There's a
movie.
similarity there, yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
hair is the
that's
same,
close, man.
practically.
It looks a lot like. But anyway, not to get too far off the topic. Look, Resident Evil, and I'm one of the few guys on this panel. I am not a huge fan. I even bought Resident Evil 2 remake, hoping it could sort of turn the tides for me. Still wasn't a big fan. I think the game is, yes, it looks great. There's a lot of aesthetics. There's a lot of gameplay improvements overall, but that was a game sort of that kind of bypassed me at the time. Was never really a fan of the original controls. They're obviously improved a lot in a new game, but I'm not really a resource. Like, I love horror games, but I don't like resource management style horror games. Those things kind of just get on my nerves, and that goes for almost any genre. But I will say, Resident Evil 4 was the one that did hook me in a little bit. I did like Resident Evil 4. I remember playing the original on the GameCube and enjoying it a fair bit. Of course, a lot of things improved by that time. It was no longer sort of stuck in a very linear static setting. It was a little bit more free flow, that sort of thing. And then I really love 5, especially with the addition of the co-op and the different setting where they kind of went off to like the African environment and stuff. And I kind of enjoyed that. 6, not so much, kind of that dropped off with me. And then 7 came out, and that was a game in itself. Like, if you took the name off of that game, I still think it would have been a phenomenal game. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Yeah.
That could have been, that could have been Resident Creaky House for all I'm, all I'm concerned, and I still would have enjoyed that game. It was a very solid game. Obviously, it ties in with the Resident Evil franchise, sort of a prequel, a story that kind of gets the ball rolling. What makes that game is honestly the hugest risk that they pulled, and that was bringing the series to first person. Some people hate it, some people still do. I think for the next one going forward, I would love to see the option for both. I think for the classic Resident Evil fans to play from a third person would be amazing, but I also think they've got a new set of fans, kind of like myself, that are really just starting to get into Resident Evil because of the first person perspective, which what I found with first person is just it adds that level of intensity. First person shooters, first person horror games have basically been VR before VR became big, because it's kind of the closest you can get, when you don't have that full sort of 360 look around in your character and stuff gets right up in your face. It just feels more visceral, more serene. It just gets your blood flowing.
Yeah.
I love 7. I thought the pacing was great. Like I said, the characters were some of the standouts. They were all kind of bizarre and wacky, and you wanted to see what was happening. And the game just kind of got a little bit like darker and grittier as it went along, almost like a private detective kind of deal. And then it turned into something else. And there was a little bit of shooting. I love the Chris Redfield stuff, or whatever it was when, was it Chris Redfield, when it started getting a little bit more action oriented? So if they go with that route, I'm definitely a fan, because I'm a little bit more a fan of the shooting and the constant turning and running away kind of stuff. So I did love 7. I'm super excited for 8. I don't really think I'm going to care too much for Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I know you're a huge fan, Boom, and I respect that. It's just not my cup of tea, and I don't think number 3 is gonna change that after playing 2. But I do like the franchise. I like where it's going. I'm excited for 8, and I can't wait to see what happens. Like, based on the stuff that we've sort of heard so far, I think it's going to be another phenomenal title.
Yeah, no, I agree. Listen, again, it's if you're not into the classic stuff, and that's pretty interesting that you weren't into the classic, but you really were taken aback by 7, and I'm assuming that you're excited to see what they do with 8.
Totally.
Okay, excellent. Well, that's a great point. Cybernox, let me get your opinion on this too, because I don't know, like Noof, if you're a big fan of Resident Evil, the franchise, but to hear this topic with that, and I mean, listen, there's a lot to break down here, and there was a lot leaked, and again, they're coming both from sources that have in the past leaked important and credible information about Resident Evil. Are you interested to see where they take 8, and are you disappointed or excited that they're retaining its first-person view from 7 in its sequel?
When it comes to horror, I love it. I'm
Excellent.
a big horror fan. I love movies, games. I don't play as many horror games as I would like to. I don't know. I just play multiplayer games more than whatever. But I'm very excited. I think it's fantastic that that they actually can take a franchise like Resident Evil and actually explore different elements with that same franchise. But yeah, it's gonna be big. They hit it out of the park with Resident Evil 2. You know, like I think Boom, you said it was your game of the year last
Yeah,
year.
well, right now it's a 93 on Metacritic, and not only did it do well critically, commercially, it sold fantastic for Capcom.
Oh yeah, and I have the game. I bought the game, so I have the game. It's incredible, like what they've done with that engine and how they actually remade the game. Because there's a big difference in between remaster and
Yes,
remakes. You know,
yes.
they
This is built
actually
from the ground up.
built from the ground up. 3 seems like it's gonna be just as well made, if not better than 3. So yeah, I'm excited. And like I said, it's kind of fun when you can take a franchise and explore different avenues within that world. You know, Resident Evil 7. You know, if you kind of like what you guys alluded to earlier, if you played that game without knowing it was a Resident Evil game, you probably didn't even know you're playing a Resident Evil game. You know what I mean? If it didn't say Resident Evil 7 on the box. It's fun. I love the lore. I love the world that they build in. I would love to try that game in VR. You know, you guys say it's kind of
Yeah,
crazy, and I would
you want
love
to
to
test
be
your
in
Moxie
there.
in VR. You know what you got to do? You got to play the demo. It's called The Kitchen. It's for Resident Evil 7. It will make you not want to play that game in VR. I continue to play it in VR, but I at some point I realized that keeping my heart and my pension intact, I decided to not finish the game.
There you go. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a big hit. Capcom has been knocking it out of the park as of recently, and yeah, I think it's gonna do well.
Listen, great points. And Gaming Forte, obviously, you have the GameStop exclusive Resident Evil 3 Collector's Edition, which, of course, I have already pre-ordered in my local store and paid for because, you know, I got to have everything Resident Evil. Are you excited to see what they're going to do with Ethan as a character? Because remember, we only know him from one game as opposed to, you know, all the classics, Barry and Claire and Chris and Leon and Jill. We know all of them. Ethan, though, is someone I want to get to know more about. We know what happened with his wife. We know what happened after they finally got out of that place. Are you excited to see where they take Resident Evil with these leaks, apparently into Eastern Europe? But more importantly, are you excited that it's still in first person?
You know, I played all of Resident Evil 7 in VR.
Really? Good on you, dude.
Like, as soon as I got my VR, I played halfway through it regular. And then I got my VR and I was like, I'm gonna try this. My daughter was the one that kind of encouraged me to do it because I thought she was gonna jump out of her chair when she was playing it. But she made it through she got all the way up to the fight. I forget the guy's name, the fight when you're inside the garage, not the garage, the garage.
The garage with the father. Yeah.
Father. And she got to that part. It was like not scared at all. And I was like, oh man, if my daughter can do this at what was she, like 12 then? She can do this, I can definitely do it. So yeah, man, it was great. I played the whole thing through VR, and that's nothing but first person. So hearing that this is an option that they're actually going to keep in there is really, really cool. The whole Ethan line, I actually really enjoy that because it gives them a chance to tell a story that most people don't know.
Right.
It's a different character, so you're not it's a chance for you to get story progression and character building with a character that you don't know compared to the other ones that you knew so much about throughout the whole Resident Evil franchise. So I'm really, really excited for that. I'm just looking forward to what ever since they made, I'm one of those people that like Resident Evil 5, not so much 6. 6 was like the action game that can be
terrible.
So, but 7 was like a kind of a reincarnation of what I really liked about Resident Evil. And then they actually brought that back with Resident Evil 2 and with the remakes of that. So that got me really excited. Resident Evil 3 is right around the corner, so I'm definitely jumping in on that. And hearing these leaks about it still being first person, as long as they add the VR option to it, I'm good, because I'm definitely going to do it if it's VR in it again. I think this is an opportunity for them to not only solidify what people love the most about Resident Evil. It's just another cash cow. Capcom has been killing it with these remakes.
Yes. And
people get, they keep getting saying, aren't you tired of playing remakes? Not when they're this good. When they're good, I could care less about a remake. As long as it's good and enjoyable and it stays true to the source material with a little bit of change that they did, the little slightly things that they changed to the atmosphere and everything, it just made you feel like you were more there. And you didn't feel like you were just in a police station the whole time. It felt way bigger than it actually was. So I really enjoyed that. I can't, especially with them using this location. That's the one thing I like the most about what they did with like Resident Evil 5. They actually went to what was it was Africa, wasn't it?
It was Africa.
Yeah, Resident Evil 5 was in Africa. So, I really enjoy when they go places like that because they kind of makes the virus or, whatever thing they're fighting at that time, because sometimes it's viruses, sometimes it's the zombies, it's a whole bunch of different things. It kind of makes it feel like a living world because you're always in different places. And the fact that they're doing that in this one really excites me the most. But I'm really, like you said, excited to see what they can do with a character that we really don't know a ton about. We only had it for one game, and this really gives them a chance to do some character building that they was able to do throughout the franchise with the rest of the characters that's in the game.
Yes, well, listen, great point, and again, I agree with you. It is nice to see them go outside the box, and I think they're going to have another winner. And I think it's going to. I would not be surprised in the least if this is in conjunction with the PlayStation VR 2.0, which of course I know I'll be getting, Mooch will be getting, you'll be getting, and this would be one of the first games to use that new wireless technology that we're all hoping. But listen, I'm going to say this: we are 2 hours and 10 minutes into this show. I'm glad I was able to still do the show. I actually feel a lot better. I feel more alive behind the mic. So I know it was a little, I guess, sluggish to start off the show, but everyone did great. The chat, we had 350 people watching live, which is absolutely amazing. I have to once again thank the unbelievable generosity in the super chats. I mean, my goodness, it was like literally so many that I actually couldn't keep up, but thankfully I was able to get to everyone. And I want to thank you guys and gals personally for being so generous. So let's get to the outros. And Mooch, I want to get you out of here first because I know that you are usually recharging the batteries on Mondays, but thankfully you hung out with us for 2 hours. Listen, dude, it's been a blast to work with you again. I'm not sure if you want to make the announcement now, but I might be stopping by a future episode of Crossfire to make my return home that I've been away from for about a year. Thanks again for being here. Love what you bring. Of course, the quote of the day is, I have noise canceling headphones, and my wife is saying, "Who's yelling?
Who's yelling?
Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
Appreciate that, buddy. Thanks for having me on the show. Great show, great panel, awesome chat, like usual. Boom, yes, you guys, Boom, let the cat out of the bag. It may be this Friday, maybe the Friday after, maybe the one after that. We're not sure. Me and Boom are working on it. One of these Fridays, the return of Senor Bombastic will come back, and we're going to have a great show, guys. But do please check me out on YouTube. It's the Mooch78, also on Twitch. Shout out to Cyber before the show started. He goes, Mooch, when the hell are you going to get back on there? I've been doing 1 day a week. I got to get back to my 2-3. So tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, the Mooch78 on twitch.tv. Go over there. Hit the follow button, guys. Hit the follow button. You hit the subscribe button. You click it. You forget it. It's easy. So that being said, guys, we'll see you Friday night as well on Crossfire, 7 p.m.
Hey, Mooch, I wanted to ask you, are you going to be doing any more of these one-on-ones? I really enjoy that segment for your channel.
You know, it's funny because I always teeter-totter between whether doing the one-on-ones or having the guests come on and do just join the panel. So yeah, it was a great interview with Paul Tassi. Thanks for the shout out there, Boom.
Yes.
I'd like to. I just had Spawn Wave last week on Crossfire, which was just great. I've known Spawn. I've talked to him for a few years now, often on the record. Great to have Spawn on, and we've got another special guest coming up either this week or next week. So Boom, depending on what week you pick. Another great YouTuber.
It's not going to be this Friday. You can lock me down for the following Friday. I'll be.
There you go. It's already a done deal, folks. You heard it. Now he can't renege. That's it. He's got to go. He's got to go. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great to return home, and I'm not ashamed to say it live again on the air.
It'll be great.
Because of Mooch's kindness and generosity as a human being that gave me a voice in this community. I mean, again, I'll tell the story one quick time. I reached out to him in a DM, and I said, "Hey, listen, I'm a big fan of the show. Do you, have fans come on?" And he said yes. And basically, that generosity, that handshake, or the lift up, so to speak, gave me an opportunity to get a taste for podcasting, gave me a voice in this community. And then I, obviously went out and did my own thing. So I'm always going to be grateful for Mooch, and it's going to be a real honor and a pleasure to come back to where it all started.
I appreciate that, Boom. Like I said, it was fun because you do the same thing for so many great people in the community as well, and that's what it's all about. Shout out to Dreadpool, who's in the chat too. Dread was on the show, and it's great. It really is great to have people that you just kind of talk to, whether it be on Xbox Live or on Twitter, and someone says, "You know what? I'd like to just get my opinion on the air," and it's like, you know what? Grab a microphone. Come on, let's go. That's what it's all about, guys. So you don't always have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with Cyber. You don't have to agree with Tempest, Forte, Noof, Boom. The point of the matter is that we all enjoy gaming, and to be able to come to any show and be able to have great conversation and debate, it should be welcomed, and it should also just be like, that's the narrative. That's what we're doing. We're talking games, and Boom. Honestly, great show tonight, and I've had a great time with the panel and chat.
Well, thanks again for being here. And of course, we got to get to Noof Nukem. Noof, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I thought you were going to be a lot later. And like a superhero, you showed up literally as we were finishing the introduction on one of the panel members, and there you were. Love working with you, love what you bring. You have a passion for gaming, and you are very serious, but you're also very telling on your feelings about certain situations. And I love that you wear it on your sleeve, and everyone in this community really loves and respects what you do for this community. The way you reach out and say, "Hey, listen, I'm getting on Xbox Live to play this game. Who wants in?" And you always put it out there for everyone. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
Yeah, brother, you know me, man. I'm like a doorknob. As long as I'm around, everybody gets a turn, right? Come on in. The door's open. No, man, it's great to be here. It's always a lot of fun to be on this particular podcast. It's always fun as well to hang out with my good buddy Mooch, who, like you, man, he was the guy who gave us a start. A lot of guys in this community may have not had a voice today if it wasn't for Mooch being generous and offering us that little avenue to get out there. And I did the same thing. So, yeah, that was my first stomping grounds. I'll never forget it. And hopefully, Mooch, by the way, at some point in time, I'd love to come back on. I know you've tried to get me on several occasions, but Fridays, I'm really always usually working. Boom's been lucky enough to get me on sometimes because some of my shifts on Fridays don't start until the afternoon, which means I can do his podcast and still have enough time to get to work. But yeah, I'll get back on it eventually. I'm sure, as long as the invitation is open. But again, man, I had a lot of fun. And just a reminder, guys, that Gaming After Dark with me and Primal Eve has been moved over to Tuesday nights, our original date and time, so about 10 Eastern on Tuesday nights on YouTube. I don't even know why I moved over to Monday. I think I just kind of forgot which day we're doing it, but it works good either way. Primal's good with it. I'm good with it. Seems like the feedback's been good. So Tuesday nights, 10 p.m., my YouTube channel, Gaming After Dark. That's about all I got to say. It's the rest of time for me to shut my pie hole, know my role, and get out of here and let you guys get some rest and do what you do best. Let's go back to playing some games.
Yes. Well, thank you again for being here. Really appreciate it. Tempest Son, first of all, thanks again for taking the time. Obviously, we're not going to go into specific details, but, he's had some family obligations that he needed to attend to. And thankfully, what we discussed of privately didn't come to fruition. And he was able to be here and hang out with us for over 2 hours, which was awesome, because having him a part of this show has always been super important to me personally, because he's one of the first people that I asked to start this show with, and he said yes. And it's great working with him each and every week. So do me a favor, tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, get blasted in the face by playing multiplayer on Xbox Live.
You can find me at the Tempest Sun on Twitter, and my gamer tag is Tempest Sun. Once again, Boom, thank you so much. Boom, it's just for everybody in the chat. Boom is what he is. He is an amazing guy. Well, who he is on the show is who he is personally. And I get frequent questions. How's the family? how's the kids? I'll just get a random text, and it makes my day better. This dude's out there looking out for his friends. I love you, Boom. It's awesome.
I love you too, brother. Well, that's what it's all about, man. I mean, at the end of the day, it is games, but you know what? People matter, man. That's you know, when you're on shows, when you play with others, you know, online, they become more than just someone you random or a rando that you got. You know, obviously relationships are forged, and some last for years, and that's really what it's all about, man. It's about making that connection and, you know, just treating people good.
Yeah. And before I get out of here, you've been putting on my intros for multiple shows now. I'm the guy waiting for Phantasy Star. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Xbox. Thank you, Sega. I had the best time gaming I've had, and I can't even remember this weekend playing Phantasy Star Online 2. I played it with my wife, and we needed to pick me up, man. It's been a rough couple months, and we had a blast, and I hope I can play with all of you guys in the chat who are playing the game. I'm on Ship 1. If you've played the game, you know what that means. It's the server, Ship 1. If you're on there, hit me up. Let's play. It's a blast. I hope it comes out soon. So that's it.
No, listen, great to have you on as always, and I'm glad that you're enjoying it because I know that is a particular game you have been dying to play, and I'm glad that it broke your expectations. Gaming Forte, dude, thank you so much for being here. This is one of the community good guys. Not only that, though, he's one of the most busiest podcasters because he's basically on everything. Thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate the passion and the knowledge that you bring to each show that you're on. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your very busy YouTube channel.
All right, yeah. So let me get a little sentimental on you guys here. Before I talk about myself, I want to talk about some other people. Boom, Mooch, the Iron Lords, Enrique, Ash and Lucas, Momo Backslap. It's been 2 years since I've been in the community for a long time, just listening and just being on the outside, just listening and taking stuff in that people have been saying. But the way that people have embraced me in the community, the way people have helped me grow my YouTube channel, the way that people have given me a voice in this community, all you guys, I owe a lot to you guys. And, you know, there's been times where, you know, I'm at work and I'm just like, I'm so tired of all this crap. And then I listen to you guys talking. I'm like, you know, it's going to be all right because we're gamers and that's all that matters in the end outside of, you know, family and everything. And to know that everybody in this community kind of feeds off each other and we help each other as much as we can is always a blessing to me. You know, the fact that, you know, the Brap, we're averaging 100 viewers a episode now.
That's awesome, dude.
And that's happening because Mooch was on our show last week helping us, you know, grow the channel. We're on his show growing the channel. We always come over. I mean, everybody's always over here on Boom's channel. It's like, you know, just the camaraderie that everybody shows with each other is truly amazing. And I don't know what I would be. I don't know where, you know, I would be in gaming if it wasn't just for the people that I ran into here. So you guys are amazing, and I just want you all to know that. And when it comes,
thank you, brother. Well, you're just, don't sell yourself short, my brother. You are at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, when it comes to myself, you know, I just like making people smile. That's the only thing I really care about the most. Because that's what makes me happy the most, watching my kids grow up, being with my wife, and just communicating with you guys. And the love you guys been giving on YouTube has been amazing. We're about to hit 1,400 followers finally, and that's, you know, that's even cooler. But yeah, just the friendships that I met over here and just the people that, you know, you guys mean a lot to me. And I just want you guys to know that. So everybody on this panel, you guys, I tell you this guys all the time, and it's not fake, it's for real. But I just wanted you guys to know that because this is a brand new year, but it's always going to be the same Forte, same Nautical, same everything. And you're going to get what you're going to get with me. But I appreciate it, Boom, as always. It's been an amazing show. Mooch, I love doing a show with him on Fridays. And then, man, Brap, I love that show even more. I told myself years ago, I'm not going to be on all these freaking podcasts. but it's so hard because when people, you know, when people give you a voice and you always got something to say, it kind of is just a natural fit. But I appreciate you guys. But you can catch me at Gaming Forte on YouTube and Twitter. Man, and catch me on Xbox Live. If you guys want to play games, just hit me up on my Twitter, man. I'm always willing to jump in and help play people and run people through stuff. So if you need anything, just let me know. And thanks again, Boom. Thanks again, Mooch.
My pleasure, brother. And last but certainly not least, bringing up the rear, but someone that I find to be a huge part of this show and was a huge absence for a couple of months, simply because obviously, job responsibilities take, precedence to, of course, a silly podcast. But it is a pleasure and an honor to have Cybernox back here. You are a gamer through and through. You are someone that I consider that we got to get together. We're only a stone throw away from having a coffee with one another.
Oh, yeah.
So we got to figure out a time where we can do that. But listen, dude, it's great to have you back. Love the knowledge that you bring, but also love what you do with the community as well as your YouTube channel. Do me a favor. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your awesome and amazing YouTube channel.
Yeah, man, I'm pretty easy. Thank you so much for that, Boom. And like a lot of you, most of you might know, Boom was the first one that reached out to me too. I've always been lurking, always been listening, just hearing everybody. I have my core group of friends, but most of them are just casuals. They don't go as hardcore as we do into the game. And just having a voice in somewhere where you can come and talk about games with people with the same passion, whether that be Boom, Forte, Noob, Tempest, Mooch, just listening to anybody in the community talk about it, it's amazing. And when Boom reached out to me and said he wanted me to be part of the panel, I'm always gonna be grateful. Boom, you know that I've talked to you privately, and I'm always gonna be grateful.
My pleasure,
to you on
brother.
that. Yeah. But I'm easy, guys. Cybernox on Twitter. That's where I'm mostly active. Cybernox on YouTube. I'm lacking on content a little bit because my kid is teething right now, so it's kind of crazy. All right.
Yeah, family first.
Yeah, family first. That's right. And if you guys want to join an Xbox Game Pass sort of like book club, follow my second channel, Xbox Game Pass Club, on YouTube as well, and also on Twitter. I'm about to pick the next game this week. And yeah, again, thanks again, Boom. It's been great having this panel, talking to you guys about games. New big fan. Mooch, you're a legend on the podcast community. Forte always articulating his thoughts perfectly, and Tempest coming in with that fire. And Boom, you're just a great guy overall, man. So thank you so much, guys.
Nice. Thanks, sir.
Well, listen, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Been a great, almost a 2.5 hour show. Long outros, but you know what? It's worth it because obviously we are people, and we all have, we like telling people, about our loves and dislikes. And I will say there's a lot of love been going around and on this show tonight, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. Yes, I am back, and I want to thank everybody for the well wishes of me being sick as a dog. But it's been a great show. And we will see you back next week with everyone that has been missing. So Shady will be back. I don't know if Clowns is going to be back just yet. Obviously, still give that man some well wishes to him and his wife.
Got to go, Boom.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, thanks so much for that, Arnie. Really appreciate it. But everyone, have a great night. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out for 2+ hours. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and friends.